Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy
They
there.
got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
How do we get a soundbite to play? What's the soundbite you're looking for, High Speed Drifter? Welcome back from lunch, by the way. That is not relevant. I'm not sure if I've got that soundbite queued up. Oh, yeah, I've got that one.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
I got that one. That one I don't have a trigger on for you. I can play it, but that's it. Let's see, High Speed, which soundbite were you looking for? Well, anyway, we'll figure that out here in a minute. In the meantime, in between times, it looks like why does it take so many button presses to work? It looks like we won't be re-gifting the internet after all. Not that we've stopped doing that, but apparently no one else knows how to win it except for Myra. If you would like lessons on how to win the internet, Myra has a 7-disc set of DVDs that will teach you her ways, teach you how to win the internet in like 6 easy steps. I believe it just involves refreshing the channel page over and over and over, and then clicking on it and typing very quickly. So I don't mean to give away the moneymaker for you there, Myra. But if you're interested in signing up for Myra's course, she has won the internet yet again. Another repeat offender. So I believe her record now is quite lengthy. Her rap sheet, as it goes for internet ownership, is significant. So Myra, thank you very much. Welcome. I'm sure one of you eventually will be able to beat her to the punchline here and get in here. Let's see. Shame on you. You tried to trick me. You said it would open in 5 or 10 minutes. I did try to trick everyone. Then I thought, I want to go eat. I don't want to sit here for 5 minutes. So I just opened it right away. My bad. During lunch, I did also read a. Let's see. Oh, this is not supposed to still be playing. Hang on one second. That's the Pharaoh scan. We can look at that if you guys want to, but not this moment. During lunch, I did also read a text that I thought was pretty interesting. This is from Brandy Churchwell on a tweet, actually, not a text. So sorry about that. It'd be cool if Brandy texted me, but I don't think she knows we exist. She says, so Buster can't remember where he was living that spring, or where Paul was living, or when he went back to work, or how many days are in September, but we're supposed to trust his memory about Dad's Vinnie Vine shirts. I'm going to stick with Blanca on this one. There was a lot of I don't remember from Buster, which I believe he honestly doesn't remember, and it did seem suspicious that he remembered which brand of shirts his dad did or didn't wear with clothing spread over, 12 properties? I forget what he testified to. It was a lot, but he knows he doesn't wear Vinnie Vine, so... The best part was the witness telling Poot he couldn't understand Trig and that Maggie was 17 feet long. That's a little out of context, but it was funny, saying Maggie's body was 17 feet long. That was in there. Pickles Ahoy, I did have a few. I actually finished off a jar that for some reason had not been consumed entirely in their initial opening. So I finished off a jar. I have one left, pre-cooled, ready to go. Griffin knows better. He's grasping at anything he can. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're going to be punching holes in this. We'll see what the state does to this witness on a cross-examination, because I think it'll be good. Let's see. Where are we at? Okay, still have the the courtroom back there. Let's see. I'm still shaking my head that Griffin was not sanctioned in some way over the Twitter stunt. Unreal. I think it's because it wasn't specifically spelled out. They didn't sanction him. The judge clearly thinks he violated the spirit of the rule, but maybe not the letter of the rule. Who's sending the cackle here? That's High Speed Drifter. Okay. La 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 says, I have a question, Recovery Addict. I heard that Alex didn't have his head shaved after the roadside incident. Why do we see him with a shaved head in hearing pics? What happened to shave his head? I don't know. I think he took a bet in prison and lost and had to shave his head. I don't know. It was while he was in jail. He did shave his head. It was I'm not sure if he's had a haircut since then. So the hair we see on him now was the growing back after the head shaved incident. But he did shave his head in prison, in jail. Sorry, I keep saying prison, but it's jail. So I don't know why that happened. Carol says, I didn't get lunch yet. Body doesn't want to move. Page someone. Have them bring you something. Uber Eats or something. Let's see. 2 different guns used to deploy to get you to think there were 2 shooters, says Carol Martin. Another Scott story. I'll squeeze a few in when I can. Let's see. Which one is doing this? Which one is saying Lumia streams in cooldown? Is that Cackle? I'll fix that. I have to think of something creative for it to say instead of Lumia stream is in a cooldown period. Although that is factually correct, and the software that is running the sound bites is in a cooldown period. I've made it cool down for 60 seconds. I'd like it to say something a little funnier. So I'll work on that. Lindsay Hendricks is here. Should have been here 5 minutes ago. Yeah, we're underway already. Well, but there's no roll call this afternoon. I'm going to give you all a pass. You are already a member. Yes, you are. Marcy says, all right, I love listening to you. You have a lot of law knowledge. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marcy. Most of what I've learned from you guys. You guys are super smart. Thank you. Rocket Dog 14 admitted to being an addict. He didn't know. He was admitting to being an addict by clicking the subscribe button. But now that he's admitted that he's a true crime addict, he or she, I don't know, welcome them, please, and let them know that they can never leave. It's a one-way door, really, here. We have Shrove Tuesday, pancakes, and Ash Wednesday here. I'm pretty sure that's religious as opposed to a country thing, right? Did I go to law school? I study a lot of law, but no. I am not a lawyer. I worked for the federal government in IT, in some fun positions there. I know a couple people in chat know what I do, but yeah, it was a fun job, and I'm out of that line of work now. I don't expect to have my security clearance renewed for anything I'm doing in the future. Wendy says it should say cackle all you want, but only once every 60 seconds. I like that, Wendy. Let me see if I can get that fixed here. Let me turn this off. Switch to this one. Commands, where's cackle? I think it's in this one. There we go.
Alex stole it as well.
Alex stole it as well. Let's see, cooldowns. Okay, here we go. I need to find where it said that. Where was your quote there?
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
We are not going to address subject matter jurisdiction quite yet. Need another keyboard. That's what I need. How about you can cackle all you want, but there we go. Got it saved. All right, apply and refresh. Now we're done. Okay, the Lumia stream update is gone. Thank you for that. Thanks for your patience there. Sorry about that. Okay. Roxy Moser just gifted a membership, and so did Myra. Myra owns the internet, so she's She's loving that position. Carly196 was gifted membership by Myra, and Sunny Florida Mom was gifted a membership by Roxy Moser. Thank you both for your generous donations. And the new members who were members before but are members again, please take your seat for the next month. It's wonderful to have you back on the front row. Did anyone else think it's weird that Buster didn't even remember his dad's birthday? Yeah, his dad was, he sort of stopped smiling at that point, as he was just like beaming like a proud parent during that. And what's up? Mrs. R.A. just came in to brag about the bread she made today, and it is fantastic. I had 2 peanut butter sandwiches on hot, fresh wheat bread out of the oven. Oh, my goodness. With pickles. I didn't put pickles on the peanut butter. I've done that before, but they were on the side. Anyway, it was fantastic bread. I mean, it's good stuff. Who just, Myra, did you gift another one? You did. You gifted another. You're trying to hit someone, I think. Cachette was gifted a membership. Awesome, Cachette. I think Myra is trying to gift to a specific person. I wish YouTube had that feature. That would be fun, to give them out to worthy people. Congrats, Cachette.
Alex stole it.
Let's see. Rebel is pouting because it's 16 degrees and I won't walk her when it's under 30. She's a small dog. It's for her own safety that you don't walk her when it's cold outside. Otherwise, she has to wear like a big, huge, bulky jacket and stuff, and that gets tricky. Share the recipe. I wish I could, Jennifer. She won't let me know what the recipe is. She kicks us out of the kitchen. She mixes it up, puts a little magic dust in it, whatever it is, and makes it makes it rise and bakes it, and then it's amazing. It's amazing. I volunteered as tribute to taste the bread. I think she made what, 5 loaves, and we're down to 3 already. I'm not saying I had a big part in that, but I played a part in that. My kids love it, absolutely love it. Oh, once you come in the RA channel, you become an addict. You always need a daily dose. Gotta love it. I appreciate you guys coming back here every day. That's awesome. Let's see. Did the chat work right as far as the cackle went? If you tried to cackle too much, I think it's set up. I think it's working right. Okay, we are still waiting for the cameras to go live, really, with something other than this in the courtroom. So we'll see what happens. The volume's up.
Alex stole it as well.
We'll hear the bailiff as soon as it comes back. I will be turning off the sound. There it is. It worked. Cackle all you want, but I probably need a comma after you want, right? But we'll only... I spelled here wrong. Oh, my goodness. I'm mortified. I used the wrong here. Hold tight. Hold tight. You guys get to see behind the curtain briefly. Yeah, I need to fix that. That was... My English teacher would kill me over that. Let's see, cool down. We'll only hear you like here we are. Instead, I need here like I hear you. Where's my keyboard? And the comma, cackle all you want, comma, there we go. Or is it but, comma? So this is my, I don't know how this goes. I need an English major to tell me how to do the words things. Cackle all you want, comma, but we'll only hear you every 60 seconds, or cackle all you want, but, comma, we'll only hear you once every 60 seconds. Should we do a poll? Where does the comma go? So really, does the comma go before or after the but? Comma, but, says Mrs. Woolever. Comma, always before but. Okay, I'm taking that. That's 2 yeses. It's fixed. Okay. We had an English language lesson or grammar lesson as well, so we're good to go. So this will never appear again like that. Nice. Can you play all the sound bites together? Which ones do you want? Like
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault. And you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
Alex stole it as well.
By gosh, go down and fight them. You especially want to go to court if it's bullshit charges because you get them thrown out.
Oops, that's the potty mouth one.
By gosh, make them work for it.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
In front of the Walmart.
Yeah, I've got a few sounds over here we need to tie in, but we've got a lot of sounds available. Send the recipe on the burner phone. We'll see if we can get Mrs. RA to post her recipe. I think she should post her fresh bread recipe on her YouTube channel. I know it's like a homeschool YouTube channel, but she has taken the kids in there and taught them how to make bread. My daughter, who is young, let's put it that way, my young daughter is great at making bread as well. Judge Manning is amazing. Love her. I wish we still had the I can't even.
By gosh, make them work for it.
This guy right here from Knoxville. I wish we had him still. What is her YouTube channel? I'll have to look it up, Carl. I don't remember what her court name or her YouTube channel name is for Manning's. You can probably find it if you watch Mike the Lawyer from Chicago. He pulls a lot from her. You're talking about stuff that is not relevant. Hey now, says Thal. What did I say now?
Alex stole it as well.
There is not a bite me command. Bite me? I know there isn't, but I need the audio has to be perfect. I'm picky on this. Keeping home ec alive and well. I didn't have to take home ec for some reason. I don't know why. For some reason, when I was in junior high, they let me get away with just taking like a typing class and then wood shop. And for some reason, that was like equivalent to taking home ec. And I still don't figure out how that adds up. But here's my professional wordsmithing. Cackle all you want, comma, but we'll only hear you every 60 seconds. Okay, that's what we went with, Matthew. So I think we're good. If I have a lawyer's stamp of approval, it's good as gold, really. There's no comma to be used at all if the word but is used. So Colette, you're saying drop the comma. It's not even an Oxford comma type situation in this. It's just no comma. Barnett Law.
Well.
Barnett Law, good to have you here. Welcome back. Let's see. Judge Manning channel is Gaston Phoenix something. I think that's right. Phoenix seems to, I might look really quickly. I could do that. I have the interwebs. At least Myra has let me borrow them for the afternoon here. Get some weird name. Just Judge Alex Manning is her name. Judge Alex Manning. I thought there was something else on top of it when it plays, but let me see if I can copy her channel name. Copy. There we go. So the lady who says you're talking about stuff that is not relevant, she is right here. That's her YouTube handle, Judge Alex Manning. She has a couple really good. Hang on, something just happened here. Myra says,
"This is for you, RA, because you deserve it. All jokes aside, I was in a bad space mentally before I found your channel. I am so grateful for you and the RA community. Peace. Red heart adhesive bandage, red heart. Peace."
And I wish we had a saying for the little Twitter peace bird. That's our custom emoji as well. Myra, thank you so much. I'm glad that this helps, that we're here for you. You've been amazing to have here in chat. It would not be the same without you. I'm so glad you've been here. It's been fun to have you win the internet and just handle it so well and take care of everybody and roll with the jokes and everything as well. But thank you as well for your generous donation. I appreciate that. Let's see. I missed the second half. Did I miss anything? No. The second half is about to start. We're about to start, Dutch Girl. And it's going to be the cross-examination of the... well, not cross-examination yet. I think Poot has another hour, he said, of direct questioning of his first expert. And this is the guy that has like the triple threat. He's like an expert in all these different things, everything from, police making a mistake to, trajectories of bullets and everything. So he's speaking to all sorts of things. I think he's also like a footprint expert. There's going to be a lot of stuff that comes in, and then we're going to have cross on that. So that'll happen. Probably won't get much more than him done this afternoon, honestly, because I think the cross of him will be at least an hour as well. It is a little bit of a long lunch. Yep, the judge is a few minutes late. Myra, you've got a lot of friends there in chat supporting you. It's wonderful to have you here, honestly. This chat is amazing. Bay One Gaming says, Recover Addict, when did your channel grow the most? During this trial. yesterday, Bay One Gaming. My channel grows the most during Verdict Watch. I mean, that is absolutely the most. It can grow 25% in 2 days during Verdict Watch. But yesterday, actually, when we had a law tuber on who dialed in on the burner phone. We had Kurt on with us and sharing his perspective on the trial. It went really well. It was our little surprise stream. I think it was good yesterday. In addition to having some familiar faces from LawTube on, as far as the voice goes, it also helped that nobody else was really streaming anything yesterday. So you guys were all wandering around the internet looking for things to do, and I was the only one on. So it was out of desperation people came to me, I think. But that was fun. I love it when Alex says that people can't even stop for gas in her county. Yes, her she has like a routine, a saying she says when she's basically saying, look, do not cross the line, do not stop for gas, don't do anything out of line or else I'm throwing you back in jail. And it is really funny when she says it. She does not like people out on bail to deviate from what they're supposed to be doing. How do they know the bullet holes came from that day and not another day they were shooting there? Bexy, they haven't addressed that. I think the fact that they found the bullets, I think they found both bullets from the two holes we're talking about. I haven't heard specifically they found the one that went into the hangar. They know what it went through, but I think they found the bullets, and that helps. They wouldn't really be laying around there, even the one in the dog bed, I guess. But it sort of matches the casings. Everything, the math sort of adds up on those. So I think they're fairly confident that was they were fired that time. The holes were fresh. I think that's what covers it. Ivan Victor says, I agree. I have 100 thoughts at once usually, but Recovery Addict's steady voice keeps me focused and grounded in the background. And Ivan, I know you said you don't do trig, but I've seen some of the advanced, I don't know if you'd call it modern art or what, but the advanced artwork that you set up in your store with, angles and curves and things like that. And I think you're probably better at math than you think, even if you don't think of it as math. Recovered Deck, what's the skinny from this morning since I was in meetings, says Vixen. This morning we heard Buster on Direct and Cross. Basically all he said was, we're a normal family. We text each other all the time. We go hunting. We have, just the normal stuff. We've got like 7 houses and clothes everywhere, and we party a lot and hang out with each other. That was it. And then it was like, everything's normal. And they said, well, what about the call, the night of the murders, after the murders? What about the call from your dad? He was like, it was normal. Everything was normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. And really there wasn't much more than that. He didn't have really good memories as far as dates went, across the board, including his dad's birthday. But he's like, I'm not sure, when it was. I don't know when I discovered what my dad had done. It was whenever the date was in September, the roadside incident. So there wasn't a lot. The prosecution did go pretty easy on him on defense.
All rise and come to order.
That was a good one. It's a little quiet, but it was good. Anyway, so that's it. And then we had an expert that was sworn in like 3 areas as an expert. Ivan, I can't read that one. Kayla, welcome. An hour of Poot. Yeah, that's what we have. Poot going for another hour. Let's crank the volume just a little bit.
Can bring them in.
I think he allows to bring the women too. I heard bring the men. Did anyone else here bring the men? Yeah, Uncivil Law called in yesterday. Kurt. He was playing a computer game, a Harry Potter game the other day on his channel, which I thought was pretty fun. Me having a history of gaming and computers as well. I didn't see any tweets from Jim. I think somebody must have confiscated his phone or something. Bring them in? Oh, I thought we heard bring the men. Bring the men.
The jury is present, sir.
Thank you. You may proceed.
So, I'm almost done with the quail pen and the doghouse, but I got to tell you, over lunch I was thinking about how to demonstrate
I'd object
more
right now.
graphically what you're saying.
I would demonstrate.
Your Honor, may I take this
Object.
weapon out of its box?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
He doesn't have to ask the judge for that. I know that it was a woman that was excused today that was feeling sick, but I don't know if it was a woman or a man that took her place.
Do you recognize this? Do you know what this is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the, I think it's a, like an exemplar 300 blackout rifle.
And this is the weapon, or weapon like this, that the shooter would have had.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to sort of get a visual of.
Everybody duck. Everybody duck.
How about come down here so I don't point at you?
You see his look. He's like, seriously?
Or maybe let me come up there and come this way.
Oh.
Okay? Why don't you get back?
Here's a little dance there. A little dance back and forth.
So
Putin's
I'm
marching
not
him at
5'2",
gunpoint
or
back to the
5'4".
witness.
I think you should 5'3" to 5'4". But position me. Tempting, but I don't know how I can do this, so I'm not pointing at somebody. I guess what we do is we need to come back here.
Why do they not have a fake gun?
Okay, so position me as that shooter would be. I'm trying to figure out where. How would they hold the gun up here, down here, where?
And then you want to push it down on the hip. Your wrist will have to bend.
Let's take the other angle here, see what this looks like.
Right.
It sinks off just a tiny bit here. Sorry.
Like this?
Yeah, and obviously you could crouch in some sort of a shooter stance, but that's
Not much lower than this.
That's going to be variable, yes.
Okay, and as I approach the quail pen, the gun has to go up?
It stays the same angle, right? But for different height people, the gun has to get higher and higher, right? Like that.
And if I go backwards, it's got to get lower and lower.
Right, because if you walked up to the quail pen, the hole's 50 inches above the ground, which is right here.
So I'd have to be like
Slightly
that.
down, right?
Like this?
For your height, right? About
No, slightly.
a little bit lower, no, about like that. About
At the quail pen.
at the quail pen. So you can see, if you back up, you have to get lower and lower and lower. Not like, but the gun has to stay the same
Doesn't
angle.
understand.
Oh, so it's got to be up, but
Up.
I go down.
You go down
Or get short.
to put the barrel on that green line.
So if I'm 6'4", and you measured Alex's foot to knee,
Right.
so where would this gun be placed on me if I'm 6'4"?
Well, if you're 6'4", you know, your hip is going to be about 46 inches, which will be about right here.
Okay.
It's 46,
Right,
and so you've got your trigger hand
right.
about where your hip is. So it would have to be, your trigger hand is going to have to be up where I'm pinching the tape measure.
And this is how far away from the quail pen?
Well, it could be anywhere, but if you raise
Have
it
we
too
learned
low-
nothing from the Alec Baldwin issue? Stop pointing the gun all over the courtroom,
Right.
Pood. SMH.
So then, if you're at the quail pen, the hole is right here.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Have to shoot like that?
yeah, you'd have to shoot lower.
If I'm back where you say the lines converge, I think it has to be pretty low, right?
Yes, it has to be very low. That's why it's to get a position that would be either shooting or aiming,
Right.
or a basic shooting position, you need to be shorter.
Rowdy, did you
If
see that as well?
you're bending
It's like
over in some
tempting.
other body position, that may be, maybe somewhat of an awkward shooting position, then you can be taller, right? You can be taller than 5'2" to 5'4".
But his, I think you told us his foot to knee was 25 inches.
25 inches.
And would it be, I mean, proportionally for me, where would I be?
Proportionally for you, your trigger hand is going to have to be back down where your kneecap is.
Right about here?
About like that, right? And then point upwards 3 degrees. That would be the equivalent of somebody who's 6'4" in the area where the two shot lines cross, shooting into the quail pen. They would be holding the gun like that if they were on their feet.
Okay, thank you. Please take a stand.
Okay, still trying to get a good sync here. Just 1 second. How are other feeds
Okay,
going?
so based on the angles and the basically trigonometry is what you're saying, you say the shooter would have been between 5'2" and 5'4", and back to have the ejected shells in the appropriate place. You've marked that place on this sketch where these two folks are. That's sort of the range?
Yes, and you can see some of the ejected shells, but they're right beside the body.
Right.
Just off where I've got the yellow sticky.
Okay.
That is the area where you have, I believe, 2, 3, and 4. So 3 empty, 300 blackout cases.
Okay. And that would be consistent with the position of the shooters in this position, and based on the angle of the bird cage, they would be somewhere between 5'2" and 5'4".
That is correct.
To have a shot from the hip, the lower part, I mean, almost crouched down hip.
Yes.
Now, let's move on in our presentation, and I'm going to try to expedite this a little bit and skip some slides because you and I were too detailed when we talked about this, and it's the afternoon. So let's go with the Paul Murdaugh first shot. Tell us what this is.
So this was, these first pictures are from the night of the murders, and that's inside the feed room. On the south wall of the feed room, there's just a regular window.
And what's that?
Those are pellet holes from the buckshot. There are 9 pellets in buckshot, this particular load of buckshot.
Okay. And what did you do?
So what I did was...
Next picture, please.
When I looked at there's the window from the outside of the feed room. When I looked at the crime scene pictures, I noticed that one of the buckshot pellets hit a pine tree, and SLED took a picture of that damage to the bark of the pine tree. And so when I was there's like a stand of pine trees that have been planted behind the kennels.
Right.
And so what I did, there are 9 pellets, but the pellets had already spread out by the time they went through the window. In fact, there was 1 pellet still wedged in the windowsill itself.
That you found?
That I found. But there was a tree and it had some ivy on it, but it had damage. And so what I did was I located that damaged tree and put a mark on it. Just put some yellow tape there. I went back in the feed room. If you look at the pictures of the feed room, there are some bloody footprints from tennis shoes. And it's just as I believe it was Chief Deputy Kinsey talked about Paul being about midway in the room. That's the approximate location. So I stood there, but I knew Paul got shot in the chest. So I lowered my head about eye to chest level, and I looked through each hole until I saw the tape on the tree, which is where the sap was coming out, where the pellet had hit it.
Nicole, welcome.
So
Good to
I
have you back.
determined which hole in the window belonged to that pellet. And then what I did, instead of using a trajectory rod or laser, it was daytime, I did the old school method, which I stretched a neon pink string from the damage of the tree through the hole in the window out the door, because from what I have understood, this shot
There's an incline.
was taken within 3 feet or so because there was stippling on this wound here. So what I did was I basically took the string out as far as you needed to go, and which is what is in that picture there.
This would be that string?
Yes, that is simply a string. It's pulled tight from the sap coming out of the tree where the buckshot pellet hit it, through the hole in the window, and then back through the feed room to set up a tripod in the door. So that is the shot line, or the trajectory of the pellets in the shotgun. And that's where the damage to the tree is. It's leaking sap.
Okay.
And
what is this?
that was the hole in the window that if I stood roughly where Paul was shot in the chest, it was the only hole that lined up with that tree.
Okay,
and then
what is this?
And that shows basically at the door sill, the threshold of the door to the feed room, the height of the shot, which was at the door sill, it's 3'11".
Okay. Was it on an upward trajectory?
Upward trajectory.
Okay. Next.
And so what I did there is just to demonstrate it. Obviously, because there's a string there, can't put the barrel right on the string line like we did in the computer with the green lines. I just held it beside it. I'm 5'10". I have normal shoes on here. That's the stance that I would have to take to shoot up that string. So
and at what height would that hit Paul in the chest on that trajectory?
That's like about right at my hip or so. Yeah, maybe just a little bit lower than my hip if you looked at the butt of the gun. And I'm 5'10".
You're how tall?
5'10".
So it's somebody not 5'2" to 5'4", but somebody slightly taller.
Right, or moving the gun up and down again. There's a variable here, of course. Okay. And then what I did was demonstrate, because there have been some talk. Well, that's me standing. Again, I'm fairly comparable in height to Paul Murdaugh. And what I did was I just let the string touch where the wound is in his chest, the entry wound. And if you look where my feet are, you'll see I'm just beyond the door, which is right where the bloody footprints are. So another way of confirming that this all makes sense here.
And those are the bloody footprints?
Those are the bloody footprints. That's about where I'm standing when this picture of me was taken.
Those are the bloody
with
footprints?
With the string going through, we're within, a few inches or so. And then the idea there, that would be, inconsistent with, say, somebody my height. I think there's one more picture here just to drive the point home. Like if I shouldered a shotgun and shot into the feed room, that wouldn't work. The gun needs to be lower.
Yeah, I checked that out.
So
I like
similar
the
concepts as we said before, but just done a different way.
I'm not sure if I agree with the ATV being there, but
okay, let's talk a little bit about, before we get into acoustical testing, let's talk a little bit about the second shot on Paul.
Yes.
And
I missed that.
I believe
Cole.
you watched my cross-examination of Deputy Kinsey, correct?
Yes.
And his testimony was?
Objection.
Do you remember what his testimony was?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Objection.
He analyzed the data and the physical evidence, and he was thinking that the shot was about 135 degrees relative to the ground, and maybe plus or minus 5 degrees, and that he took a height for Paul's shoulder about 4'7". He was going between a couple of data points that he had, and so he had 4'7", and then what you have to consider is that basically that's 90 degrees, and then so 135 is here. It's 90 plus 45, so it's a 45-degree angle into the shoulder. But the consideration is that they didn't see any stippling on Paul's shoulder, so you have to back the weapon up. And typically, you're looking at 3 feet or less for stippling. He opined that, well, maybe it was 2 feet because it wouldn't work out. And the reason it wouldn't work out, if you back up a normal-sized shotgun 3 feet to get no stippling,
thanks, Brown Barn.
It puts the butt of the gun under the concrete or through the concrete. So, of course, that wouldn't work.
Right.
Yes.
So he had to adjust the distance for stippling.
Right, he said, well, maybe, it didn't work out that way, the ammunition at least, because we don't have the shotgun, but test the ammunition. Does it cause stippling at 3 feet or 2 feet? That would be the correct way to do that. But if you take 3 feet of stippling, which is what the state medical examiner, Ms. Reimer, testified to, if you take 3 feet in a normal size shotgun, that 135 doesn't work because the butt of the gun will be into the concrete, or below the ground.
And I think he and I may have demonstrated that with a little red dot.
Yes, you did a hand-drawn exhibit.
Okay, so you would disagree with his assessment that the 45-degree angle shot was possible with a normal size shotgun, and adopting Dr. Reimer's 3 feet, for there not to be stippling, it'd have to be 3 feet or further, correct?
Correct, it doesn't work out dimensionally.
Okay. So, now, tell us about acoustical testing, and as briefly as possible.
Okay, so I was asked a question, which is, if a person is in the main house, would they be able to hear gunshots at the kennels? And so the way that you do this is you do acoustical testing, and I could spend a long time talking about this, but you guys probably don't want to hear all of this, but let me just tell you in general how this is done. So what happens is
okay. I'm going to call BS there.
A gunshot is impulsive noise. It's very quick.
What expert says, let me just make it short for you. I'm not going to bore you with the details.
The threshold of pain
is
about 140 decibels. Now, when you move 10 decibels, like 140 to 150, it's twice as loud. So you'll see what I recorded these weapons with a special instrument, and you'll see how loud they are. And the idea is that will the sound attenuate, decrease enough when it reaches the house? And there are a lot of considerations. I considered there's a little grove of trees. You don't have a hard reflecting surface. It's pasture and trees and sand. You also have a well-built house, double pane windows, wood paneling. So it's going to have at least a normal sound attenuation properties. In other words, if you shut all your windows, you shut all your doors, there's a noise outside. Depending on how loud that is, you may not hear it. So what I did was I set up testing. It's the same testing. It's called military standard 1474. That the military has concerns about soldiers firing weapons and causing hearing damage. They want to know how often can we send them to the range, or what kind of hearing protection, how many rounds can they fire in a day, that sort of thing. So I just set up the testing, and in a nutshell, the blackout rifle, we got an exemplar blackout, the same ammunition involved in this case. We got a 12-gauge shotgun, we got bird shot, we got buckshot. Basically, the shotgun is around 155 dB.
dB
is decibel.
Okay.
And when we measure sound, it's not on a regular scale. And the reason is because we can hear, the threshold of human hearing is very, very minor. And then we can hear loud noises like a rock concert. So if it was like a speedometer, your speedometer would have to go to like 0 to 1,000,000. It's not practical, so we make it a log scale. And all you really need to take away from that is if you have a sound that's 50 dB, 60 dB is twice as loud. That's how we perceive it, if you have normal hearing. And then the idea is that, like the background in the courtroom here, there's a little bit of noise going on. But when everybody's quiet, it's probably maybe 45 dB in here, right? So if a sound is 55 dB, we're all going to hear it, no problem. If a sound is like 45 dB, we may not hear it at all unless we're really listening for it. Or if it's a really quiet sound like 25 decibels or 30 decibels, we would never hear it. It's just the same thing as you could be at a rock concert and the person beside you is trying to talk to you and you can't hear them, even though they're talking in a normal voice. You just can't hear them because your background is too high. They're talking in a voice like I am. Without the microphone, it'd be about 70 dB. But your rock concert's 110 dB, right? So all we're doing here is we're comparing sound. I did the testing and also went back and just used the theoretical calculations for the propagation of sound to make sure that my results, which I took on January the 5th of this year, were the same as the results that you would have gotten if you would have done the testing on June the 7th, 2021. You have to take into account humidity, temperature, pressure, the wind direction, those types of things. So I did that.
So what does this slide depict?
So that's an overhead shot of Moselle. From the center of the dog kennels, the area where all the evidence is, to the center of the house, the main house at Moselle, it's 1,142 feet, so 1,142 feet.
Okay. As the crow flies.
As the crow flies.
Okay, next. And this is looking past the doghouse to the kennels?
Yes, so you're looking towards the kennels. The door on the right end of the kennels is the feed room. That's the area where Paul's body was found. And then the doghouse is there. What I'm showing here is that there is a backdrop to this area, which is vegetation and trees. For reasonably close distances, you have to take into account the vegetation and the trees. At longer distances, the sound can carry, because the sound, when I shoot the gun, the sound is going to expand like you're blowing up a bubble, right? It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but the bigger that bubble gets, the weaker it gets, just like the sound. Okay. And eventually it goes away.
Next.
So at longer distances, you're going to hear them.
What does this depict?
But shorter
that's
distances,
looking back towards the house to show. You can't see the house here, but that's looking straight back towards the house to show that if you were going to do some calculations, you have to take into account there is a barrier of trees in the way.
When were those pictures taken?
All right.
Oh, here's a special instrument.
All right, that is a sound pressure level meter, and it's a type 1, which is a high precision. Normally, when you're recording sound is somewhat continuous, and you can use a high-grade meter. This is a special meter that's designed to capture gunshots, because you're talking 20 microseconds, thousandths of a second, the rise of that pressure wave of shooting a gun. So you have both the gases escaping from the gun, and you have the sonic boom of the bullet leaving the gun. So it's complex noise. And you have to have a meter that is fast enough to catch it.
It's not a turkey
and that's what
thermometer.
that meter is.
It's
Next.
Ginger beat me to
What
it.
is that?
That's a little weather station I had, so I was recording the weather before and after the testing, because I knew that I was going to go back and pull the weather history for the night of the murders and just see what kind of correction factors needed to be applied to my testing.
As far as humidity, wind speed.
If the humidity was high that night but low then, how do you adjust that?
Well, there are charts and tables. It's just standard conversion, right? And the humidity was higher in June than it was when I did it in January. The temperature was about the same. Humidity was different.
But you've got tables and charts, calculations. It's physics, or whether it's
for the results of this. All of these modifications or adjustments that you would make really don't make a difference, because the results were so far apart. Like what you would have to be able to hear a gunshot inside the house. It really didn't matter. You didn't have to make the corrections for temperature and stuff that I did anyway.
And that just shows where you had that instrument set up. Next. Again, picture where the instrument set up. Next. So why do you have a measuring item there between?
So what you're doing, and so I took a piece of dental floss, tied it to the muzzle, and then anchored it so that I knew that the muzzle was 1 meter, it's a little over a yard from the microphone. And the reason you do that is that, so you fire this gun, and let's say it's 165 dB. So for every doubling of distance, it's going to lose 6 dB, 6 decibels. So at 1 meter, it's 165. At 2 meters, it's going to be 159. At 4 meters, it's going to be 153, and so on, because every doubling of distance, that's theoretical. Then you have to add correction factors, but that's basically what happens.
To ensure that your response is, your recording, your calculations are as accurate as possible.
Correct. I'm just following the MIL standard here.
Okay. What standard?
It's a United States military standard.
Yeah, you talked about before. Okay, next. That would be the ammunition you used?
These slides are just showing what I used to do the testing. So this is the 300 blackout.
Next. Is that a 300 blackout
Yes.
bullet? Okay, next. That would be the 300 blackout?
Yes.
Next. That would be the shotgun?
Yes.
12 gauge?
Yes.
Okay, next. That would be the buckshot you used?
Yes.
Next. Okay, and that would be the bird shot, the turkey load bird shot?
Yes.
You used, right?
Yes.
Next. And this is the inside of the house?
That's inside the den of the house, and what I did there was I took background readings. In the quiet house, it's really quiet because you're way out in the country there. I mean, there's no traffic. So it was about 35 decibels in the house, which is equivalent to, say, a quiet bedroom.
Did you have the air conditioning on?
I believe the air was working. The refrigerator was running, but it was very quiet.
Okay.
And then so what I did was I set up some equipment there to measure the background. We also, of course, we turned on the TV to normal volume. So that's up around 68 dB, 70 dB, depending on how you want to listen to it. We put a movie in and
Okay.
just had that. So 2 background levels in the house.
It's called gun smoke.
And then the next question is when you fire a gun at the kennels, do you hear it? Do you not hear it? How loud is it?
Okay, next.
Charlie, it's good to have you back.
So what is that?
Well, we shot the blackout out around the doghouse, and then we shot the shotgun into the feed room, out of the feed room,
They
and
shot into the
with
feed
the
room.
muzzle outside the feed room. So we shot into the feed room.
This
we shot
property's
out of
for
the feed-
sale.
So we're just trying to figure out, is there anything about the shape of the feed room that really changes the character of the shot? The takeaway is yes, it muffles the sound if you shoot into the feed room. It's not hard to understand. But the blackout was much louder than the shotgun.
And it was shot over by the doghouse where the shell casings were found?
Yes.
Okay. And that is what you shot in the feed room?
Yes, it's a ballistic gel dummy. It gave us something to shoot into.
Okay. Next. I'm not quite sure what that is.
It's just pictures just showing the testing.
Okay.
Same.
Okay, next. And this is the various indoor and outdoor sound levels. And could you, rather than reading all of this, could you sort of give us an overview of...
I can't read any of it.
Are these the results of those shots you made?
No, this is just actually just from the literature. If there was a discussion about different decibel levels, but
It's wrong again.
Vacuum cleaner 70 decibels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, quiet conversation 55. A dishwasher in the next room is 50. And on and on. From
Okay.
loud noises to soft noises.
Next.
I think that's just a blow up at the last slide.
Okay, so what does all that mean?
Just as a comparison to my numbers, these are other people's test numbers, basically done the same way I did it. And you have a bunch of rifles, and they're between, you have 166 decibels, 163, 161, and therefore. So basically your rifles, all the way down to a 22, which is like 143 decibel. But if you're shooting a rifle with a decent size cartridge, then you're looking at something from 160 to 165 dB.
Okay, next.
This is a similar chart of other people's work doing the same thing, and for shotguns. And basically, your shotguns are going to be 150 to 160 dB, so not as loud as a rifle. A little bit quieter, but obviously 12 gauge still is a loud gun.
Next. Okay, here's your results.
These are my results. So basically, the blackout was right at 165 dB, and the shotgun was at 155 dB. So the results that I got from the testing were in line with testing that other people
have been doing. Okay, next. Okay, so
Now we get to hear at the house what it sounded like.
you want us to play this?
Yeah, crank the volume up
Go
to
ahead.
70 decibels,
Wait a
like you
second.
said.
What is this?
This is an audio file. I could present numbers, graphs, but what I did here just to get the point across, and here's the bottom line. This will be
Ooh, that was loud.
the
I heard
300
that.
blackout fired in the loudest direction. because we tried north, south, east, west, but this is fired in the loudest direction. I'm sitting in the den, the doors and windows are shut. TV's not on, so it's as quiet as it possibly can be. And I'm sitting there listening for the shot. But you can gauge the sound of the shot, and I got a microphone now, but I'm talking on this audio recording the same way I'm talking right now.
Play it, please.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna give you a countdown, and then you let Michael shoot, and then go ahead and mute your phone, please. Okay. 3, 2, 1, shoot. All right, stand by. So it was about 1 second before I said, all right.
Go ahead.
So you could barely hear it, and we were all listening for it. So if you were in the house, even if you were walking around, you wouldn't hear that. I could barely hear it, and I was listening for it. So what that tells you is that the sound inside the house is right at that background level. It's kind of sitting right in your background of the quiet house. And so if you were doing any kind of activities inside the house, you wouldn't hear it. And certainly if you had the TV on.
Run the test one more time with Alex Murdaugh standing,
loud. So it's
25 feet away because he was down there when it was shot. How loud was it then?
You have a engineering professional acoustical opinion, more probably than not, as to whether somebody in that house, without the TV on, not listening for it, would hear that those shots, those blackout shots down at the dog pen.
I do.
And what is it?
You would not be able to hear it.
And the shotgun, I assume, was quieter, so it'd be even less of an opportunity to hear that.
Yeah. There were times we fired the shotgun in a quiet house and you couldn't hear it at all.
You fired the shotgun in the quiet house and you couldn't hear it at all? Kib Kitty, welcome. Who is your sister? I want to give a shout out to her as well. But
I think there's some more slides, but I think we've covered the acoustics, unless you want to get more into it.
No, keep going. I don't think we need to do that.
I've never seen an expert who's like, I don't want to get into the details. Let's skip over stuff. I'll just give you the summary at the end.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence a printout of that. I mean, yeah.
No objection.
Submitted without objection.
This would be
the state's like, we're fine with that. We're not saying he was in the house and heard the gunshots. We're saying he was holding the gun and heard the gunshots.
Thank you, Mr. Dog, just 1 moment.
Sister is Dre. Well, Dre, you have, Kib Kitty, you have a great sister. Dre, thank you so much for referring your sister here. Wonderful to have you both.
Okay, now let's go to one last matter. Here. And you indicated you've done accident reconstruction.
Yes.
And I have a number of questions about, and this is, I guess, all mostly physics.
This guy's a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's why he skips all the technical details.
You've seen this document before. You recognize that?
Yes.
Okay, don't tell me what it is yet. Any objection? This is the,
well, DMB, you saw what Dre did. If you get your brother on, we can give a shout out to him on his birthday. Or if he's right there, give me his name so we can do a shout out.
any objection?
Just a question.
This graph you created under your supervision?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's another one, which is 142. Yeah, here we go. So we'd offer 141 and 142 into evidence. Any objection?
This audio is awful.
They
Trying to
admit it.
sync things up here. Just 1 second.
42.
Okay, this feed is a little bit better.
And that's 142.
The audio was awful. Sorry about that.
So 141 is speed from Moselle to Alameda, which I guess maybe we don't have that on computer, do we? No. Let me put this on the overhead.
He needs to get back to the microphone. They're cranking the audio because he's walking away from the microphone, which he complained
Can I have the
about
Elmo,
earlier.
please?
And all we're hearing is like the air conditioning of the room, that low rumble.
And okay. So what does this depict?
This is a graph of the speed of Mr. Murdaugh's Suburban, and this is from the trip from Moselle to his parents' house.
And that would be on the night of June 7th?
Yes, and each one of those little vertical lines, the blue lines, represents 3 seconds.
Okay. So, two things. You look at 141, and you look at the time. You look at this correlated. At 9:07, has Mr. Murdaugh left his home?
Well, actually, the one that you've got up is the return trip, I believe.
Which shows the long pause in the driveway.
Which one do you want?
Alex Stollett.
Putin here, Poot, is perfectly fine with this being all jumbled up and confused. They want to introduce as much confusion into this court case as possible.
Yes, that's 141 there.
Right, and at 9:07, has he left Moselle?
Objection, Your Honor. No times on this chart.
There's no times on this
You
chart.
independently checked the data behind this and determined where he was at 9:07.
Yes.
Where was he?
On the chart, he would be
There.
that first rise there.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a dip, but then it rises all the way up. It's a little bit over 60 miles an hour there.
Right.
It's right before the dip in the middle. The dip in the middle is when he sent a text message. So just slight slowing. No, back over. Back. Right, that little dip right there.
Right.
So 9:07 is going to be right before you get to that dip.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I may have not had already did it.
What is he doing here? He has no clue what the chart shows. It's like over here on the top. I'm not the bottom's not labeled. All we know is that each line is supposed to be 3 seconds.
So this graph starts at 9:07, does it not?
Yes.
Okay. So it means that he is in Moselle at 9:07?
Yes.
Okay. Questions are confusing.
So he just
After
testified
he
that
leaves
he
there,
was 907 was further down the chart, so he already screwed up.
Does he slow down? I mean, after he turns onto the Moselle Highway, does he slow down at all for any point until minutes down the road?
Not until he's down the road. He's building speed. When he passes that, what you just asked, the cell phone location, he's passing through the mid-40s.
Didn't slow down at where Maggie's cell phone is on the side of the road.
Correct.
was actually accelerating a little bit as he went through there, just like, I think 42 to 44 or something like
Objection,
that.
testifying.
I'm sorry.
Sustained.
Is that about right?
We can't see because your highlighter's in the way.
Okay. So as he drove past, I think you've testified that, where Maggie's cell phone was thrown out on the side of the road, tell us approximately what he was doing. Was he accelerating, decelerating, stopping? What was he doing?
He was speeding up. So he's speeding up from, 42, 43, 44, 45 miles per hour as he goes through that area.
Any indication he stopped or slowed down?
No.
Okay. Now, so you study physics, or you actually testify about physics. If someone were throwing a phone from a moving vehicle,
This guy's testifying about everything. Seriously, he's an all-in-one expert.
and I believe you went down and looked at the area where Maggie's phone was found, right?
Yes.
Would there be any, describe for me the kinetics of that?
Objection, beyond the scope of his expertise.
Beyond the scope of what?
Couldn't hear your objection.
Objection, beyond the scope of his expertise.
Response.
Yes, sir, he is a mechanical engineer. We're talking about a mechanical motion. He's done accident reconstructions where they have to determine the motions of certain objects during that wreck. And perhaps I could even ask him, are you confident you can give us an expert opinion on how a moving object
how it works.
would move if thrown from a moving car?
Sustain the objection.
Sustain the objection. Boom.
Okay.
We're going to need another expert for that to say that you couldn't, oops, there we go. You couldn't throw it that far. That was funny.
Now, you've also done, looked at a number of crime scene photos.
Ivan,
Yes.
tag his
And
account
you,
for me.
understand
Send
where
me
Maggie's body
Tag
was.
me and him on an
Yes.
account.
And you
On a
understand where
tweet.
Paul's
Or
body
send me a
was.
message or something.
Yes.
I can't
Would a
find it.
vehicle, first of all, tell me the typical headlights of the headlights on a Suburban. How far out would they go? How far out would you be able to see with them?
Well, it depends on the object that you're looking at. The low beams, modern low beams, which
Low
would be on
beams.
view.
And it depends on where the
You're gonna be
headlights
able
are
to see
aimed.
about 250 feet in front of the vehicle along the ground.
And what about the width of the vision?
Yeah, there'll be a spread out to the side as the headlight beam pattern bends around it, maybe 20 feet or so on either side of the vehicle. Depends on whether it's the left or the right, and depends on the color of the objects on the ground. But yes, the area in front of the Suburban would be well lit.
And I believe you saw the Suburban's placement in the photos after the police officers arrived, correct?
Well, yeah, I have seen the photographs, and I also have seen the path that the Suburban took by the GPS points as it drove up to the kennels.
And based on those, do you have an opinion as to whether or not Alec Murdaugh, if he was driving
Thanks,
that
Ivan.
vehicle, would have been able to see?
Objection, beyond the scope of his expertise.
I need to hear the complete question before entertaining an objection.
Based on your knowledge of the function of the headlights on a motor vehicle, do you ever look at that in terms of
Who's getting fired?
motor
Fired
vehicle
up.
accidents that you investigate?
I look at it all the time, car pedestrian accidents.
Okay.
It's a well-known area of study in my field.
So would you be able to give an opinion as to what someone would be able to see with their headlights?
Yes,
You do it all the time.
yes.
So do you have an opinion, to a degree of mechanical engineering, more probably than not, whether Alec Murdaugh would have been able to see Paul and
Objection.
Maggie's bodies as he pulled up?
Objection, calls for speculation, beyond the scope, and no foundation laid for that line of questioning.
I sustain the objection.
Okay?
Okay.
You looked at the photographs of the scene, right?
Yes.
You looked at the GPS data to see where that
Now he's
vehicle
laying the
pulled
foundation, but it still is
initially,
beyond the scope.
right?
Yes.
I'm talking about the Suburban.
Yes.
You routinely take that same data in a mechanical and not a mechanical, in a motor vehicle accident. You've been qualified to testify about motor vehicle accidents. They agreed to that. Tell me, would someone driving that vehicle been able to see in their headlights the bodies of Paul and Maggie at that GPS location?
And again, I'm going to object, Your Honor. Same thing, calls for speculation.
I overrule the objection.
Go ahead.
Yes, they would.
Experts
They would
can't
definitely
speculate.
be available to be seen. I can't say what Mr. Murdaugh saw, but you're talking about objects that are maybe 25 feet in front of his Suburban, and directly in front of his Suburban with low beam headlights on flat level ground. It would illuminate the whole area under the shed, between the shed and the kennels. So his headlights would definitely illuminate that.
Okay, he's saying 25 feet. I came up with 24 feet by my calculation this morning. So that's pretty close, considering I was measuring. Oh, little peck on the cheek, little love peck there for the for Poot. Little post lunch affection going on there on the defense table.
In your career in investigating motor vehicle accidents, have you ever had the opportunity to look at how objects behave if they are thrown from or broken off from a motor vehicle that's in a wreck?
Sure. The most common thing is, say, a motorcycle rider who hits a car and flies through the air. So there are ways that you can analyze the trajectory. Say an object flying through the air at a certain speed, what happens when that object hits the ground? The other thing that you see, like objects coming off trucks. Unfortunately, things come off trucks all the time, and they bounce on the highway or fall off, and they go through people's windshields. So it's simple ballistics. It's straightforward.
Which is completely different than throwing a cell phone out of a window.
Objects moving through some sort of a trajectory, and then also what happens once they strike the ground. How do they slow down? Of course, it depends on the surface, but how does an object slow down once it's flying through the air? Like if a rock comes off a dump truck and the dump truck's going 55. When the rock hits the ground, it's going to be going 55, so it's not just going to stop. It's going to continue traveling until it rolls and tumbles and slows down.
Let me get back to a question. That is, an object this size, the size of my cell phone, if it separated from the vehicle, thrown, fell off, or whatever, on a car that's going, whatever the speed limit there, 45 miles an hour, and it heads over to where you saw Maggie's phone found, would it rotate more than 45 degrees in the air?
Objection. Speculation. No foundation laid.
Which for John? He has studied this. This is what he does.
He studied according to what, which seems to be not in dispute by the state, since he was
Alex
no
Stoller.
challenge to his qualifications in any of the areas that you offered him in. The question is whether this calls for speculation.
Are you speculating, or is this based on years of study and physics? I mean, what you do?
No, it would be based on physics.
No speculation there, Your Honor.
He knows exactly what's going to happen.
You're on right. Permission to approach. Permission to approach.
Permission to what? I'm sorry.
Do we excuse
Approach.
the jury?
I'll stand for a moment. Yes, you can come forward.
Okay, this is crazy. I think Poot's doing a good job not getting riled up. He hates objections. He hates people objecting to what he's doing. He's had to surrender a couple points already, and you saw a little bit more fire in his question. You can tell he's getting a little bit angry. If he keeps getting smacked down, he's going to start getting loud, and that's where he loses it. That's where he loses it, in my opinion. That's the clown court, says 7. Let's see. I've turned off the sounds just for a minute so we could hear the testimony. I think Alex is still on and lawsuit or something, but most of them are turned off. Okay. You'd need to do some calculations for the specific things going on in this example. Yeah, he'd need a lot more data. This is basically like somebody saying, if a train left Chicago going 50 miles an hour, when would it cross another train? There's a lot of missing parts.
Alex Stoller.
So objects moving from a moving vehicle, or even moving vehicle like something this size, if it's going through the air and the car is going 45 miles an hour, will it tumble, unless it's a spherical object, will it tumble?
Well, it depends on how it's separated, like you said, from the car, or thrown from the car. However it gets away from the car, you need to know that before you know what it's going to do in the air. But the one thing's for sure, it's going to hit the ground at 45 miles per hour, which is 66 feet per second. So as soon as the phone hits the ground, it's going to want to come to a stop, right? So that phone will tumble and slide. If it was just like grass, just like flat grass, it's going to go about 115 to 120 feet. That's how long it's going to take that phone to slow down from 45 miles per hour.
120
In the area
feet.
where the phone came out, though, there's like some saplings and brush and pine straw. I doubt it went that far, but it would definitely, tumble through the edge of the woods there.
Tilt more than 45 degrees?
Sure.
Ivan, you just got a membership gifted to you by Myra.
When you say tumble, it would...
That is awesome.
Tumble.
Thank you, Myra.
Right.
When you say tumble, do you mean tumble,
Head over heels,
or just tumble?
perhaps.
Yes, that's what's going to happen to a...
Which side is the head?
It doesn't have to be a phone, but any
object.
A brick or anything like that, it's going to roll and tumble. Maybe if the surface is flat enough, it might even slide.
One last question. I wasn't lying. I just forgot this. You looked at the data on the speed data on the Suburban returning on the night of the 7th from Alameda to Moselle, correct?
Yes.
And the state mentioned that there are a couple of times where or at least one time where speed goes up to 80, comes back down, or tell us what's happening with those peaks, the 70 and the 80.
Well, if you look at Exhibit 142, this graph represents the speed, so the higher the peak, the higher the speed. The sharper the peak is the smaller amount of time that he spent at that speed. So like the one in the middle that goes to 80 miles an hour is just for just a second or so, a couple seconds.
And that first...
Because each one of those blue lines represents 3 seconds. So what that shows you is that
it's when he parked.
He does reach high speeds on the return
well.
trip, but it's not for a long period of time. And that's why basically the average speed of Mr. Murdaugh coming back to Moselle is about the same as what SLED drove it, right? Because you're not really changing the average speed that much because you're driving faster, but just for little periods of time.
Is that consistent with somebody passing a car?
It could be.
But it's just a up and down. It's not like 80 miles an hour all the way back to Moselle.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
Right, not from Moselle. From Alameda. I apologize. Beg the court's indulgence.
I think Poot's done here. Prosecution should get a shot at this now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break now. Please do not discuss the case.
I am Puzzleman. What's your question? Confused recorded with live broadcast on YouTube from your channel? This is live. We are on YouTube.
Alex stole it.
And Alex stole it. Ask me your question again. I don't understand what you're asking there. I think Poot did an okay job. He did what I said he had to do the other day. He had to rein in his emotion, where he just starts yelling every time he gets an objection sustained against him, and he just gets louder and louder and angrier, trying to push his way through. He maintained his level on this one and was able to get more facts in from the witness. I think they covered everything they wanted to with this witness, who, that's a separate issue. This guy is an expert in all these different areas, very different areas, and the testimony he gave and the manner he gave the testimony, for me, is a little confusing. It does not match what I would expect an expert witness to say. Expert witnesses get paid to testify. They get paid per hour that they're on the stand testifying. It is one of their billable rates. And I've never, ever heard an expert say, let me just cut straight to the chase and give you the number you're looking for, instead of telling you all about my methods and all about what I do and how they work and why it's important and, and how many times I've done this before and what it was similar to. You always hear this very verbose answer from all of them. He's like, I just use a special tool and this is what it did. So, let's see. When they get back, they will do the cross. Yes, Eagles pray. They will, I think, unless Poot has another question that the judge will let him ask before Cross takes over. Let's see, always on go. You feel bad because you missed a lot of Buster's testimony. You had a doctor's appointment in the middle of his testimony. There wasn't a ton there. There wasn't like a smoking gun, a gotcha moment. I will say he came across very believable. I think he believes his dad is innocent. I think that's the case. Myra gifts another membership. Apparently, you were not trying to get the one over to Ivan, and Edward Foster just picked up the new one. Thank you very much, Myra. You're amazing, Myra. Thank you so much. And Edward, please take your seat. Ven's here. Good afternoon, Ven. You're late, but it's all right. So you hold up the phone at the top of the window just outside, and you drop it, and that phone will travel the speed of the car and stay within the frame of the window until it hits the ground. Physics says that. Yeah, I'd have to look at where it landed, but the testimony for me that was just bizarre. Roxy keeps it going. Roxy just gifted a membership, and Kib Kitty, day one, received a membership from Roxy. That is awesome. Welcome, Kib Kitty. Now you can take your seat. You can type !seat and move up to the front row, where the view is just amazing, and you get to sit with all your friends. He says that you could throw the phone out the window, and if it were on grass, like smooth grass, at 45 miles an hour, the phone would go 100 feet? Are you kidding me? 100 feet, it's going to go make contact within, 2 seconds, and then it's just going to slide, like, zoom, across the field, even though it wants to stop, apparently. Oh, yeah, that frustrated me. I hope they question him on that. The phone will hypothetically go 45 when it exits the window, but wind resistance will start knocking that down quickly. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. Yes, to test this yourself, just go ahead and hold something out the window, like a tennis ball or something, and just toss it up while you're driving 45 miles an hour and see if it comes back down and lands in your hand, or if it, is much further behind you at that speed. It will slow down for sure. Can I be excused since I was at work? Yes, we'll give you a pass, Ven. That's all right. Thanks for joining us here. What about bouncing? Bone Digger, the bouncing thing, it might have, but here's what we know. The phone was thrown out there. That's where they found it. There was no signs that somebody walked out there and set it down there and then walked back and left. Just didn't happen like that. It wouldn't bounce the same every time. They should reconstruct this theory in real time, get the jury in a truck and toss a phone. Ivan, I can see the whole jury in the back of an old beat up, Buster's truck or Paul's truck driving along Moselle Road. And Boots there in the driver's seat, chucking phones out the window, and they're measuring. That would be awesome. That would be great video. It's not a rock that skips across the water, right? Even a rock won't go 100 feet. It takes quite a throw to get it to skip that far. I had $5 left to spend today, so I had to, but you were my choice. Thank you, Myra. That's awesome. Also, take into account the angle of the phone, what part of the phone hits the ground, what damage the phone takes in when it hits, thus changing the shape, surface, etc. Yeah, and as it flips, as it's moving, it becomes, the resistance increases instead of, if you threw it like a Frisbee, yeah, you can see that going pretty straight. The rotational motion will want it to continue. It's like a gyroscope effect, but still the wind's going to try to catch one of those edges and start to tumble it as soon as it can. I recommend the entire chat try the experiment with their own cell phones. Everybody right now, out to your cars. We're going to do this. No, that's not safe. I have an old phone. We should try the theory out. We should probably turn the camera on the phone. And I've got software that I could in post, I could remove the rotation so that it looks like the phone is staying still. So the ground will spin, but the phone won't. So the picture would just stay. Yeah. Well, I could mess it around a little bit. It would be fun. Let's throw some things out the window for science's sake. Let's see. Field trip. Who's going to drive, Adam? Who's going to drive the truck while we all sit in the back and chuck stuff up and down Moselle Road? Sponsored by Android. Oh, my goodness. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to ruin our phones. If Poot keeps with these extreme ideas, the jury will toss everything out. Ed, this is exactly what he needs to do. This is what he needs to do. He needs to bring in these bizarre things that an expert says, yeah, that would work. Yeah, that's possible. That's how it would happen. And there needs to be enough of these in their head that they're like, I'm so confused. Yeah, all these different things could occur. There's no way I have beyond reasonable doubt and I can go with a conviction. So he doesn't even need to have all of them agree with each other. He just needs to inject reasonable doubt all over the place. MCAT, your gifting membership button appears to be stuck down because you just did it again, and Casey Jones received the membership. Congratulations, Casey. Thank you, MCAT, for your generous donation yet again. Thank you so much. I have a truck. Everyone pile in, says Tabitha. Now we're ready to go. We've got the truck lined up. I was going to just say an Uber, but everyone hop in the back of the F-350. You have the Suburban. We have the Suburban, and that's, Nicole, that's perfect because it's a Suburban. We're actually replicating it as it occurred. That would be the best test. A male cell phone will travel further because it won't stop for directions, but it will go in the wrong direction. Mo Freedom. I think you have to point that out. It would go to the other side of the road. I'm praying they have an intelligent jury of his peers. I think they do. I think the jury is paying attention. I think they're good. I think they're honestly trying to figure this all out. We don't have no Uber up here, says Ivan. Everywhere has Uber. You just have to pay more for it, I think, and wait longer for them to show up and pay for their trip up there. Are the jurors' heads still spinning? That's why they get these frequent breaks, Grumpy Cat. Once the phone leaves the car, the engine and wheels aren't having an effect on it as they are the car. It's not obvious. Yes, so Charlie, the phone is not going to be speeding up as the car does. But the funny thing was that chart they showed, it literally shows a dip where it's like he's accelerating and then he accelerates again. And that's where they say the phone was thrown. And they're like, what was he doing through this time? He's like, accelerating right through it. It's like the chart shows the opposite. The chart, I said chart, that was unfortunate. The chart shows the opposite. A couple people don't have Uber. Man, we've got to do this field trip. It would cost you $1,000 to get an Uber to the store here. I think the jury's asleep. I wonder how many of these witnesses have been in Alex Murdaugh's pockets for years. Mary Kay, I think these experts that we're bringing in, these out-of-state experts, probably haven't been. But they seem to be of the variety that might say that, how did you guys say it? Somebody in chat said, how often are you hired and find a conclusion different from what the person that hires you wants to find? How often does that occur? And I don't think in this case it does. I think they sort of look at the facts as the defense is putting them forward, or the theory of events as the defense is putting it forward, and then find facts that back that up. Legally, I don't think you can call that thing a chart or a graph, not with those unlabeled axes. It was pretty bad. All we knew is that each line, which was like lots and lots of lines, was 3 seconds. I still want somebody to map that out, to make a little virtual recreation of those trips and show when the car speeds up and slows down so we can watch it like in real time. So like break out Google Earth and plot over the top of it the car speed on the road in accordance with that chart, or the poor excuse for a chart. Please, no sharding, says Nicole. Starting. That explains it. The dip was AM sharding. I'm sorry. It was a slip of the tongue. I'm loving this channel and the people here. Rev Minister, it's awesome to have you here. This is great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really close to needing the washer and dryer, so I don't know what I was thinking. We're just full of charts today. Yes, we are. Not impressed with the defense team. Trouble. I think they're doing what they should do, and I hate it. But also at the same time, I think they're doing well at many things. The fact, the whole, I hate the I'm so dumb I can't figure this out type thing. These are smart guys. These are smart men. These are people that that have a lot of power and influence and have gained that because they're smart and they do well at what they do. Unfortunately for us, doing well is pretending like they don't know what's going on a little bit because they want the jury, they want everyone on the jury to think everyone in this courtroom is confused and you should be too. That's what they're exuding with everything they do, with every way they question. And occasionally we'll see just a little break from that. But they are good at that. Don't forget to hose down the leaves before you throw the phone. Can't OnStar show if the window was up or down? If it was, then case over. He didn't throw it there. I don't know if any of the records had window data in there. I think in the future, like probably not too far future, our cars, like if you bought a Tesla, I think really Tesla is probably at the forefront of this. They can probably tell exactly everything your car is doing. They can tell what position your rear view mirror is located in. It's all going to be there in the logs, and it's probably in real time on Elon Musk's phone. He can pull up your car at any time and see exactly what it's doing. Okay, they've got that level of connection and communication, and it's probably that granular on your vehicle that they can say windows are up, windows down, which cameras are turned on, what the sensors are seeing, the wheel speeds, individual wheel speeds, the battery temperature, everything that's happening in the car, they can save. As we get more and more down this road, I think our cars, the computer in the car is more and more important. The days of the car not keeping track of what happened are in the past. We pretty much all have a little black box in our car, or will soon. You guys are not going to let me go on that chart slip up. What's going on? Had to switch to a podcast earlier to stay awake during this drive. Well, Lindsay, we're talking about charting, CH, not SH. I'm surprised that no one has pointed out the margin of error in the GM or cellular data. Says Nicole, there's always a plus or minus amount of error for time in the data. Do we know what the margin is, Nicole? Because I have not heard it. Everyone's sort of basically saying this is actual time. I know they're based on a satellite link, similar to a GPS. They're very, very closely aligned. I mean, just get all your friends that have phones together and pull out the display so you can see the actual seconds and hold them up next to each other and just see how close everyone's time is. You're not going to have several minutes of difference. I know where Alex Murdaugh's money was allegedly going. It wasn't for drugs. It was bribes. How many people knew about his thefts or drug use would keep quiet for a fee? Ven, I think you're right. I think it's impossible for him to have the years of success embezzling money the way he did without having some sort of support structure to help cover, to help make sure that this didn't come to light, or to help pull it off. Because even if you can steal it all, there's concerns that somebody else would discover it, and people naturally would discover it. So that's why he has like multiple people that are cashing checks for him. Because if he's constantly just running down to the what was the name of that bank? Starts with a P, I forget. Anyway, the bank that he did all his business at, not the Bank of America.
Alex Stollett.
Going down and just cashing $50,000 checks, a couple times a week, that's going to look suspicious. So they send runners. They say, everyone has different runners that goes down and cash checks. I think those people were probably paid very well to not ask questions. They might not have known what was happening, but they probably had incentives to participate and cover this up. Defense comes across as dishonest, so I don't trust what they or their experts say is fact. Liz Beto, this is they don't have to come across as honest, so to speak. They just have to come across as, introducing doubt. They just need one juror. That's all they need. In Finland, they have a competition where they throw Nokia phone the furthest away. And it's just a Nokia, Morton. That's awesome. Who can throw the Nokia? Does it have to be like ringing when you throw it, so you can, the ringtone slowly fades as it arcs away? Debbie, hey Katrina. Debbie says, I forgot to sit down. Everyone watch your toes, please. Have a seat. Welcome, Debbie. Did they stop at the area of Maggie's phone? Nobody stopped at the area of Maggie's phone. I believe it was thrown out of the vehicle of a moving vehicle. I challenge your notion Tesla cars know everything when they're the ones that keep hitting people when on autopilot. DMB, I think they know they hit something as well. They just aren't smart enough to not do it. We're getting there. It's a work in progress. Everything's a big beta test with those cars. We all need snacks for the road trip. Don't throw those out the window, though. Here's a story. Speaking of throwing things out the window, and I will tell you this story. There was a time in my life when our family owned a big, huge van. And by big van, I'm talking like the 15, 18 passenger van, not cargo van, but passenger van. The big, huge, long one, the boxy.
There's a lawsuit.
I'm not sure if it was a Chevy or what, but it was a huge, huge van. And the back windows, they had those little, oh man, Judge is coming back already. They had the little windows you could open up and they open like at the bottom. If you take an orange and drop it and squeeze it through the back of the window, first of all, there are fumes from the exhaust that come up, so you don't want to leave those open all the time. But you squeeze an orange down through there, and full orange. It drops out when it hits the freeway at about 60 miles an hour. It'll bounce a couple times, and at each time it hits the ground, it starts to accelerate its spin, and it spins faster and faster, and then there's a point where it will just peel itself, and then for a brief moment, you have a fully peeled orange that just juices and turns into a juice, and it throws it in like a fan shape. Don't ask me how I know these things, but I do. Also not recommended to throw perfectly good food out the window. Your mom may not be a fan of that. Mine still is not aware of that occurring. But she probably is now, as family's in here. Oranges out the window. All right, here we go. Back just in time. Katrina, no, I was good. I was really good.
The jury is present, sir.
Hey, here, cross-examination.
Okay, here comes the cross. Poot's done.
Good afternoon.
Fairly good.
I wanted to begin by going over a few of your qualifications, what we heard about kind of at the beginning of your testimony.
You should have objected at the beginning.
Is your practice focused primarily on, would you agree your practice is kind of focused primarily on accident reconstruction?
I would say so, and failure analysis.
And that would be in your advertisements online and your CV that you provided?
Well, probably on the website we really don't advertise, but definitely on my CV.
The website? Right?
Yes.
What does it mean to failure analysis?
And most of the work you've done would have been in that field, the accident reconstruction or analyzing things to do with mostly civil litigation. Would that be fair to say?
I would say, yes, that's fair. Most of the work that the company does, company-wide, is civil litigation, and so accident reconstruction, but that's a pretty broad description because, for instance, I have civil engineers, I have biomedical engineers, so they deal with a lot of different subject matters.
And primarily civil litigation, even though it's a broad area, civil litigation.
Exactly.
Very good.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm following him now.
And
so I'll watch
your client today is the defense, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were retained by them. When were you retained?
Jim Griffin called me, I want to say it was about the middle of September of 2022.
And I know we've seen your PowerPoint. Did you, is that your report or did you prepare a separate report for defense?
The written report that I did in this case was on the acoustics testing, but the PowerPoint was just trying to pull, it's a big file of course, but just trying to pull it all into one place.
Did you provide any additional reports to defense, or was the PowerPoint the only one?
Just the PowerPoint, and then I had maybe a 4 to 5 page report on the results of the acoustics testing.
And when did you finalize your PowerPoint that we just saw today?
In its final form, that would have been yesterday.
So you finalize your PowerPoint one day before your trial?
Yes.
This guy is.
Is that standard for you to do?
Yes.
I always do everything in the last minute.
All right, and what's your, how much are you getting paid for your services?
So the company charges $3.50 an hour for my time.
And how many hours have you worked on this case?
Oh, Lord. A lot. I couldn't give you an idea, but I made 2 trips down here. I've been to Moselle twice. I read through a bunch of documents, studied pictures forever.
I just stare at the pictures.
Got ready for trial.
I just sit there and stare at pictures.
I would probably say
$350
that I
an hour.
have, somewhere between 40, 50 hours in this case.
40 to 50? Is that your estimate?
I would think so.
Does anyone
travel
want to do the
incurs
math?
additional expenses. Is that why you kind of mentioned it separately?
It does, yes. So, the company charges anytime I'm traveling or working.
Is that $17,500?
Have you ever done any work for the law firm formerly known as PMPED?
No. Because I've been doing this for so long, and I do a lot of railroad cases, I have been on the other side of that law firm, and I've been deposed, like on the other side. They took my deposition. I was on the other side working for a defendant. But I've never worked for them directly, like say a personal injury case or a wreck case.
It wasn't me, Lindsay. It wasn't.
Have you ever been retained to work on the boat case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Tell me about that. What was your retention for the boat case? And by the boat case, which one are you referring? What do you understand that to be?
Well, the boat case, the Maori Beach case, so the one that occurred down at Paris Island. So I do boat accidents. I do small vessel, watercraft, jet skis. I've actually worked on ship accidents, ship collisions before. So I do a lot of maritime and boat accident work. And I was called by Jim Griffin a few years ago. It would have been probably within a few months of that accident, and I did an investigation of the boat crash.
Do your services also include a retainer? Like, is there some sort of retainer to work off of before the hourly billing kicks in?
No, our company is pretty simple. We just bill by the hour, so we don't do contracts or retainers. Some people in my field of work do.
So you were originally retained by Mr. Griffin for the boat case to do a boat reconstruction. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be in line with your, what you primarily do with your services at your firm. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that just falls underneath physics, mechanical engineering. Anything based in physics has the potential for being explained, and that's what I do.
All right, and I know your educational background is in engineering. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
all the engineerings.
I want to talk about a few things we can maybe agree on. And engineering is a field that, would you agree, engineering is a field that is based in science? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Would you agree that engineering is a field that's based in some math? Is that fair to say?
There's a lot of math in engineering, yes.
We heard a lot about trigonometry and angles. Math, right?
Yes.
Engineering's based, a lot of is based in hard facts. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And engineering, some of the things that really have no business in engineering would be guesswork. Is that fair to say?
Hold tight. Wait for
well,
the sirens.
In engineering, you can sometimes make assumptions and then make guesses, but you always have to go back and test them, right? You develop what we call them hypothesis, right? So you look at the problem, you try to figure out what the problem is. You form a hypothesis, and then you test it. So, you might say, well, I think this. And then you either mathematically or physically test it.
Okay. Going back to that question about guesswork, though, because I don't know that you answered it. In engineering, is it important not to use guesswork in making opinions?
Right. If I give an opinion, I'm not guessing. So whenever I give an opinion, there is a foundation based on my education, experience, and training for me to give that opinion.
So if an opinion's rendered and there's variables that aren't considered, would you consider that to be guesswork?
Well, it depends on how important the variables are. I mean, any engineer in any analysis procedure there could be lots of variables that don't matter. But if the variable matters, then of course, that would affect your opinion.
If the variable
And
matters.
in engineering, and we're thinking of, I think you said you're a mechanical engineer?
Yes.
By trade, by education?
Yes.
So do mechanical engineers engage in speculation?
Not in the context of giving opinions.
Okay. And do mechanical engineers, when whatever they're engineering or whatever they're opining about, do they base their opinion on assumptions?
Not primarily, not even really. Your opinions can't be based on assumptions. Now, there can be aspects of your analysis that you have to test, but just
test your
whether
analysis.
it's an assumption or a guess, that does not make for a good engineering opinion.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Are you a member of have you had any formal training in pathology?
No.
Have you had any formal training in firearms or firearms, how they work?
No.
Are you a member of any organizations that do that line of work, that do tests on firearms or pathology?
No.
This witness should have known that him talking during the fire truck going by means no one could hear him.
Have you taken any shooting incident reconstruction classes?
No.
Do you have any certifications in shooting incident and reconstruction?
No.
Have you taken any classes in gunshot wounds?
No.
Have you ever done any studies on bullet trajectory from out of the muzzle of a gun?
Yes.
Okay. What studies have you done?
I've done all kinds of testing.
All right. Such as?
For instance, one time I had a case, it was a murder case where a person was shot through a car door and was shot with a .357 Magnum, and the door had maybe 6 bullet holes, and each of the bullet holes had different characteristics. So I went to the junkyard and got 25 to 30 of these doors, and I spent a couple of weeks shooting that door with a .357 Magnum at different angles, different distances, until I could replicate the bullet holes in the actual.
Yeah, but hasn't everyone just gone and shot at old
so
cars?
So what you're doing there is that you have a door as evidence, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, what does that tell you? Not the same as what I talked about today, but similar.
That was not the question. He was asked about trainings.
I had a case one time where there were 2 deer hunters in the woods and one got shot at long range. So we did a lot of long-range ballistic testing of the ammunition in the firearm to determine the drop distance of the bullet and to understand where the one hunter would have to aim the weapon. I have done proximity testing with firearms by looking at the stippling. So in other words, I have a rig that I can put a pistol in, and then I put target. A lot of times I use sheetrock, and then what I do is I fire the gun at increments back and look at the pattern of the stippling. Sometimes you'll get soot and stippling, and sometimes that. So it would all be testing within the context of the cases. You know, when I get involved in a firearms case, those are the types of things types of tests that I would do. It's just a general part of our business. When we get presented with an engineering problem, we do testing.
In those testing, any of those studies that you did, were they subject to peer review or published in any publication?
No, I typically don't write papers or submit papers. I do the work.
So it's you doing a test on your own?
Yes.
Is that right? That's what it is?
Yes, or with, of course, people in my office help.
With your office?
Yes.
Okay.
A secretary.
And are you a member of the International Association for Identifications?
No.
Firearms identifications?
No.
Do you have any certifications along those lines whatsoever?
No, I'm not a firearms expert or a pathologist or a wound expert. That's not my area of physics. It's not my area of expertise.
Okay. So is it fair to say then any opinion you rendered on relating to firearms, we shouldn't rely on it then?
That's not what I said.
Okay.
If it's related to exterior ballistics and terminal ballistics, then yeah, you can certainly rely upon it. But I'm not going to testify about wounds or pathology or anything like that, and I haven't.
Okay. All right, I want to start with the start with the cell phone. I think we ended on the last slide, the charts. I don't know where those are. I'm showing you Defense Exhibit 141 and 142. I believe you testified. Can I have the PowerPoint? Oh, sorry. I believe you testified that you created these graphs. Is that right?
No, I didn't. This is an Excel graph from the data, so it's just the raw data that was
Hide my
presented
face
to
so you
me.
can see it all.
All right. Well, who created it then?
I'm not sure. I just reviewed it. I'm not sure who did this.
All right. Well,
Doesn't know where the graph
can
came
you
from.
tell me? I think you testified before that. Well, show me the time, if you would, and permission for the witness to come down. Show me the time that you indicated the phone was thrown from the car, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I got it specifically on my laptop. I can show you in general. It's up to you.
Well, you've already testified to
this
it.
isn't evidence, so I'm asking for you to come down and identify on here where it is.
Okay, this is going to be good.
You want to know where the car passed, where the phone was?
And just for clarification, yeah, 1 second, sorry. Just for clarification, we're looking at this chart. What is this showing us?
That is a graph of the speed of the Suburban versus time. So speed is on the y-axis, or this is speed, and
Time's
then
on
that's
the X.
time. So time's going that way. And as the car speeds up, the line gets taller.
Okay. And it says total time 16 minutes. What does that refer to?
That's the time it took to drive from Moselle to the parents' house.
Okay, and the sled, and then it says next to that sled test drive during day. What does that indicate?
What that is it's just comparing. It took 16 minutes, Mr. Murdaugh, and then Sled did the same drive, not at nighttime, but during the day, and took 17.58 minutes.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying before, I think you testified. You said you indicated a point where the cell phone had been thrown from the vehicle, or at least the time correlation. Could you
better
please
get this
identify
right.
where that is for us?
No, that's not what I said.
All right. Well, what did you say then?
I said that when the car passes the location.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
I don't have any information about.
When the car passes the location, where is it indicated on?
I think it's that line right there.
Okay. And you say you think. Why is it that you think?
Well, it's not labeled, but it's on my laptop. I'd be glad to get my laptop.
Well, this is an evidence, and this is what the jury's going to consider, so I prefer to work on this.
Objection. He has indicated he has a specific data on his laptop. If he wants the real answer, he'll be happy to walk to his laptop and get it for him.
He already testified
He
to this.
says he's looked at this. That's where it is. I mean, he's asked the question 3 times. He's answered 3 times.
Cross-examination, you may proceed.
You're not able to find it on here, are you? Looking at this chart.
Well, it's either this line right there, or I think it's this one or this one.
All right, does engineering engage in I thinks and maybes?
Okay, well, let me get my laptop.
Well, I'm just asking you, can you identify it on this chart?
Well, I mean, this is a really big file.
Your Honor, I'd ask the witness please answer the question.
Well, I will answer it, but I don't have the whole file memorized, so let me just look at it for you. That way you'll know the answer.
Can you point it out on this chart without reviewing whatever you're about to review on your laptop?
No.
Okay. Can you identify 912 on this chart without reviewing anything you're about to review on your laptop?
Well, I mean, you want me to answer the first question?
You answered it. You said no. Can you identify where on 912 on this chart is?
No, they're not.
Okay.
It doesn't have any numbers written down.
Thank
on
you.
the bottom.
Can you identify where 920 is on this chart?
Well, hold on. You want me to answer your questions? You want me to answer the first question?
The questions, please. Can you identify where 920 is on this chart?
No, because there
Wow.
are no numbers on this, but it's.
And can you identify where 952?
His answer.
Let's give the witness an opportunity to answer the question.
And can you identify where 952 is on this chart?
Not specifically.
Okay, thank you. You can I don't need that. And I'm showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit 142, and same thing. There's no numbers. There's no times on here either, right?
No, not on the x-axis at the bottom.
Switch to the PowerPoint, please.
He is. He's being a jerk, but he's trying to He's doing what he needs to do right here, and he can do this with an expert witness where he can't do this with
Give
Buster.
an opinion on
That's what I
objects
said.
being
You expect to see
thrown,
more
ejected,
spicy testimony
traveling.
here across.
What was posited to you was 45 miles an hour. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Opinion? What are some variables, and you're an engineer with a math background, what are some variables you would need to know before determining the distance, trajectory, and speed of an object?
Like, is the hypothetical if somebody threw a phone out of a window?
My hypothetical is, in order to determine the speed of any object, what are some variables that you would need to know in order to determine the distance it was thrown, the trajectory it was thrown, and the speed at which it was thrown? What are some information that you would need to know in order to posit an opinion about that?
Well, there would be a lot of variables, but the main ones would be, and I think I understand your question, but let's say you find an object on the side of the road, and you want to know how fast, let's just assume that
He's going to say this is non-responsive.
somebody throws something out of a car that's driving down the
Objection,
road.
non-responsive.
And let's say this would be a typical problem people ask me or we're presented with. It's like, well, can you calculate based on the physical evidence on the side of the road, how fast was the car traveling when the phone was thrown out? I mean, let's just look at it that way. So what you would need to know, like, let's say that it was on the shoulder of a road and there was like an impact mark on the shoulder of the road, and then 57 feet later is the phone, right? So you could make a pretty good determination the phone tumbled 57 feet. Well, a tumbling object decelerates at about a half a G, and that's 11 miles per hour per second. So over 57 feet, you could back calculate it. You're going to come up with something probably like 30 miles per hour, right? The variables would be the condition of the shoulder, obviously the speed that it's thrown out,
Okay.
right?
Energy, right?
Right, because for instance, if you're driving down the road, you could throw it forward, you could throw it backwards. So you may want to add the speed or subtract the speed from the velocity of the vehicle.
And I'm going to let you keep going, but just
Trying to answer the question, interrupted again.
Were you through answering that question?
I think so. I think that's probably
All
enough.
right, next question.
all right. About the strength, I think you said strength of the throw. Is that what you were talking about when we last cut?
Well,
Variables.
right, because if you just drop the phone from the car, it has zero initial velocity relative to the car, but the car has relative velocity to the road. So, for instance, it's going to have a different trajectory if you throw it straight down out your window than it would be if you throw it up in the air or throw it sideways. Those are all what's called initial conditions. And so, but if you had information, let's say you had a witness in the passenger seat that said, well, he tossed it straight out of the window, then you could calculate it that way. But you would need more information. So, to know specifically this type of problem, you would need to know a lot of different information to get like if you said, how fast is this car going based on how far that phone tumbled down the street? Yeah, you would need to know some more information.
So you'd need to know the energy thrown, the energy at which the object was thrown, correct?
Yes, or the speed.
Would you need to know the mass of the object that was thrown?
No.
That wouldn't matter?
No.
Would you need to know the wind resistance, if any?
Yes.
Look at Alex.
Would you need to know
Look
the
at
wind
Alex's
speed, if any?
face. You wouldn't need the mass.
It depends on the problem, but
How much are you paying this guy?
That might be a factor.
And absent any of those variables, really can't tell anything about an object that was thrown. Is that fair to say?
Well, it depends on the question that's asked. If you were asking me the question, how fast were the car going, then yes, you would need all those variables unless you wanted a wide range of answers. But if you ask me, if you toss a phone at near highway speed or close to highway speed, will it tumble? It's a completely different question. There's no variables there. That's just fact.
Okay. And while this may be obvious, I'm going to show you what's been marked, or what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 230. I'm sorry, I keep doing that to you.
Bone Digger, congratulations. You are now an expert. I can charge $350 an hour.
Is this the
to
side
answer
of the
questions
road
better than this
that
expert.
you visited?
It looks like it.
That's where the phone was found.
Does that look like it also? States, sorry, I'm showing you states 231.
Yes, I know there's woods on the east side, and there's an open field on the west side.
Bunch of wet leaves. Pile of thick, light stuff to catch things like a pillow. African or European, Matthew? It makes a difference. These are factors we need to know. That's not a question of where it grips it. Look, this part of the trial is brought to you by Colton County.
I'll just do the old-fashioned.
Maggie's phone didn't have GPS recording turned on, the logging. It might have been, the location system might have been, had it turned off.
And does that look like a shot from the side of the road that you visited on Mizell?
Yes.
There's the phone right there.
And what are we seeing here in the background? What are we seeing?
Well, in the background, there's the field that's over on the west side of the...
All right, in front of the field, what is that?
That's the roadway.
Okay, and in front of that road, right in front of the road on the picture, the green stuff?
Grass shoulder.
All right, and then near, at the bottom of the screen, what are we seeing?
It's like vegetation, leaves, sticks.
You'd agree that leaves and grass is fairly soft. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Showing you what's been entered as 232. Different angles. That look at the same road to you?
Yes, that's looking basically north.
And again, grass, right, on the side of the road.
Yes, that's on the west shoulder.
I think Hightower was part of that. I'm not sure if he found it or if someone else did, but I think he was with the crew that found the phone using the Find My Phone feature.
All right. When you do sound studies, have you done work? Is it primarily for like OSHA related things, or I know you mentioned some companies? Is that what the sound studies have primarily been for?
It's typically the work that I do now.
It's the sound studies?
Yes, the acoustics measurements that I do typically would be related to train whistles, train horns, emergency vehicles, backup alarms where, say, somebody gets backed over with a truck, audibility of backup alarms. I've had audibility of warning alarms inside of a factory, like, could a worker hear the alarm and then get out of an area that was dangerous? So it's usually emergency signals is typical. I have worked on a criminal case where it wasn't a gunshot, it was a woman screaming. And could a particular, they call them ear witnesses instead of eyewitnesses, but could a particular ear witness hear a woman screaming at a distance? So
the state's going to have a rebuttal witness.
Would that be for workplace considerations? There was some accident at work and it maybe relates to OSHA?
No, this was a murder case.
Oh, so the other things you mentioned previously, sorry.
No, the other ones, typically are going to be civil litigation, where you might have a dump truck manufacturer getting sued for not having an audible alarm that's loud enough, or just plain, or sometimes what happens in a car accident, but like a back over accident, they're saying that the person that got run over should have heard the truck coming and got out of the way, right? So people argue back and forth about who could hear and not hear, like a backup alarm.
KQD, sounds like the fish tank is coming along nicely. We'll have to see some pictures on the burner phone.
I'm going to direct your attention now to the sound study that you conducted, and it was in your PowerPoint.
Wow, that hurts.
Of your defense exhibit.
I'm going to turn on some audio filters so it does not happen again.
Referring to defense exhibit 140, and I guess digitally 143.
Yeah, Kib Kitty, I don't feel bad for him because, first of all, his company charges $350 an hour for his services. He's supposed to be the best of the best.
Could
Alex
please
Stollett.
to page, I believe 75 or exhibit 76. Okay, there you go. All right, and remind me again, and I know it's visual there, but what's the distance between the dog kennels and the house right there?
Straight line distance is 142 feet.
So do his math with the 6 decibels per doubling
what did I say?
distance. Let's
think
find
you
out
said
how
140.
loud.
Oh yeah, no,
1,000.
it's like 1,150 feet. Let's just call it 1,150. 1,150.
Let's do the math. Let's beat him to it. 1150.
And that's as the crow flies, right?
Decibels
Yes.
were 165
All right,
for
please
each doubling the
continue over
distance.
to
After the first meter, you lose 6
exhibit.
decibels. Is that right? Where's my
You just
mathematicians
fast
at?
forward for me. Sorry, I'm trying to find the number. Exhibit 1. Just if you keep going, I'll stop you on
43.
the 300 blackout. All right, this ammunition. What kind of ammunition is that?
300 blackout, 147 grain, full metal jacket.
Okay, and do you know who the manufacturer of that is?
It looks like Cellier and Below.
Okay. All right. And that's the ammunition you used on the 300 blackout test?
Yes.
All right, if you would fast forward a couple. And this is this your rifle?
No.
Okay. Is this a person's rifle that was working for you?
No. This was a law. The lawyer Jim Griffin provided the 2 weapons.
It's
Okay.
Jim's gun. Nice. Jim inserts himself into the
Did you
trial
yourself test
one more
actually
time.
fire these weapons?
No, an engineer in my office. His name's Michael Whitley. So since I was running the acoustic equipment up in the house, then Michael Whitley was the one that actually pulled the trigger.
And are you familiar with this type of firearm?
Yes.
All right, what is that?
Well, it's a 300 blackout, which is the name of the ammunition. And so basically what it is an AR-15 style rifle with a shorter barrel. And when they shortened the barrel, they needed a specially designed ammo for it, so it would be efficient. In other words, it's the type of weapon that might be used in close quarters, so it's shorter and you can move around and maneuver. But when you cut the barrel down to say 8 or 9 inches, you need to chamber a different round. That's basically what this is.
And is it actually, are you aware it's actually considered a pistol for purposes of government identifications?
I don't know if this particular one is considered a pistol or not. Like I said, I'm not a gun expert. But
That's fine.
yeah.
All right, if you would please fast forward to, there you go. All right, this, reverse one, please, thank you. All right, this picture, what are we looking at?
That's the ammunition. That's the buckshot that we used.
All right, and is there a reason you chose this particular brand?
The Winchester was similar to the brand of ammunition used.
What kind of ammunition is this type?
It's a 12 gauge buckshot. It's like 2 3/4 inch shells. I want to say that the buckshot in the Murdaugh was maybe a 3-inch shell, but this is
it's a subtle difference.
This is a similar load.
So similar but not the same?
That's correct.
And not the same manufacturer?
I think it was Federal. I'd have to go back and look, but I think there was Federal and maybe Winchester. Okay. The reason is just because I know that the plastic shot cups were found at the crime scene, and I think that's Winchester. But I would have to go look.
Okay, so but you concede you didn't use the same gauge for buckshot as was used in the murder of Paul Murdaugh?
No, it's probably slightly different.
Okay.
Sealing
Right,
this. Sorry about your battery. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Exhibit 7. And again, what do we have here?
That would be the turkey load or bird shot with the smaller pellets that we used.
Also 2 3/4.
Okay. And again, this is not the same load that was used in the murder of Paul Murdaugh.
I don't think it's the exact same. It's just representative.
All right. All right, if you would, please go to Exhibit 24. I think it's like 2 or 3 slides. There you go, right there. Thank you. All right, and again, this is the interior of the house at Mizell, is that correct?
Yes.
And I believe you already testified to it, but what was the ambient decibel reading inside that house?
35 decibels. Pretty much steady state.
And is that, well, I guess we heard an audio clip, right?
Yes.
That we played for the jury. Does the ability to hear something, is it affected by the ambient noise?
Yes,
in a
that's
room?
what. Yes.
Did you do a test on what the ambient noise is in this courtroom?
No, I can do it right now if you want me to.
Did you do it before? Does the ambient noise have an effect on how we hear something?
Yes, that's what I explained. So in order for you to be able to clearly hear something, it's got to be 10 decibels above background.
And now
And
we've
if
heard
it's 10 decibels below background, you're not going to be able to hear it. And when you're in between, it depends on if you're listening for it. Like if you're really listening for something, like if you're at a train crossing and you're listening for the train horn, it could be right at the background level, like you've got the radio on a little bit. The train horn can be right at the background level, but since you're listening for it, you might be able to hear it. If you're not paying attention, and then you might not. But if it's 10 decibels above your background, you will hear it. 10 decibels below, you're not going to hear it, because again, that's twice as loud or twice as soft.
And if sound's relative, and I know you gave an example of the concert, how did you decide, or how did anyone decide what volume to play that sound clip? Would volume affect your ability to hear something?
It does, but it really wouldn't matter, because again, the shot from the kennels was only 1 to 3 dB above background, so it was about 36, 37, 38 decibels. And even if you rustle a piece of paper, that could be in the 50s. And so it doesn't really, in this case, the volume of the TV, it really didn't matter, just because the sound of the gun inside that house is so faint, it wouldn't make a difference.
In this courtroom, all papers are rustled under microphone.
I know this is beyond, this may
so it's
be
like
outside your
120
expertise,
decibels.
but just asking you common sense. Are you aware that trees generally grow?
Yes.
So remind me again, what day did you go out and perform these
soundbite.
Sound tests?
The sound tests were January 5 of this year, so 23.
And I know we have some pictures. If you wouldn't mind backing it up to Exhibit 14.
Yes, all these trees and undergrowth and stuff grows.
Okay, right there is fine. Sorry. Would this tree line on the back of picture Exhibit 10 be consistent with what you saw in January?
Yes, that is January.
Okay. And are you aware of what the date of the murder was?
Well, that's June the 7th of 21. So basically, this picture's taken, let's say, 18 months later, 19 months later?
And I think you did testify that sounds, because speed travels in a straight line, sound would be affected by the tree line. Is that correct?
It will be on the other side of the tree line. It's also going straight up, too. It's like I said before, it's like a big half bubble getting bigger. The trees probably obviously did grow in the year and a half when it happened, and I did make correction for the trees, but it was only, I think it was 1.7 dB, if I recall. But so the trees made a difference, but not that big of a difference.
Well, without being there, and whatever the tree height were, would that have an effect on the sound level? I mean, I think you said you accommodated 1.7 dB, but will you agree that the height of a tree or a forest would have an effect on the sound?
Oh, it'll have an effect, but in this case, it's let's just call it 2 decibels. And what I'm talking about is, background inside the house, if you have the TV on, is like 70 decibels, right? So we're comparing 35 or 40 decibels. Whether we add or subtract 2, it makes no difference, because you got 70 versus 30 or 40. And remember, just 10 decibels is twice as loud. So 70 decibels is many, many times louder. So I went through the process of making sure that the numbers were correct, but minor variables such as wind, humidity,
he did all this
wind
the day
speed,
before.
The
Like
trees,
yesterday.
all of those, even if you factored all of those in, it really doesn't make a difference, just because the gunshot inside the house was so faint that you're just not going to hear it.
All right, sir, if you wouldn't mind turning to Exhibit 25, please. It would be toward the end, forward.
And now let Murdaugh stall it.
It's a chart. Yeah, the next one. Next one, if you wouldn't mind. This chart. Okay. What's the decibels of a vacuum cleaner at 3 meters and a gas lawnmower at 30 meters? What's the decibel rating on that?
70.
Be 70?
Yes.
And you said the TV was at 70?
68 to 70.
So the same as a vacuum cleaner running and a gas lawnmower?
Well, the lawnmower is what, at 30 meters, which is, that's,
Okay. Just
100
checking.
feet. It must be a pretty quiet vacuum cleaner because in my experience, a vacuum cleaner is a lot louder than 70 decibels.
What was the decibel reading that you measured for the shotgun blast again?
Around 154, I believe. It's on the next slide.
And what was the reading for the rifle?
165.
I think you talked about extrapolation. You know what I'm referring to? Extrapolating the sound over distance?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you said, but the sound dissipates 6 decibels for every twice the distance. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that's what you testified to?
Yes.
So if you wouldn't mind, could you extrapolate for me? So at 165, which is what the rifle tested at, could you reverse extrapolate that to 1,024 feet? Could you do the math?
Yes, I have that.
On my computer.
Well, it's actually a slide, but I've got the chart, if you give me a second. Okay. So what I did was, when you add in the attenuation, what distance do you want to know?
1,024 feet?
So basically just like outside the house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the basic
Okay,
calculation.
so because of the weather conditions, I adjusted the number up for, I'm assuming we want to talk about the night of the murders, right?
I just want to know if you could if you could extrapolate. I don't want to know about weather conditions or anything right now. I just want to extrapolate 165 decibels beginning at 3 feet beginning at 3 feet, and then I want to extrapolate it to 1,024 feet, and those are even numbers.
It's 89.5 decibels.
Could you repeat that,
89.5.
please?
Yes, 89.5 decibels. Let's just say you're just right outside the house.
So basically
Wait,
90
what are you saying,
decibels.
right outside the house?
Yes. Inside the house, it's in my other report. Inside the house, it was maybe 35 to 38 decibels inside the house.
Some good soundproofing. 90 decibels outside the house.
All right.
30 inside.
I'll come back to that. I don't want to know inside the house, outside the house. I just want to know in a lab setting, you have a 165 decibel blast.
Right.
Measured at 3 feet. So 165 decibels at 3 feet. If you extrapolated that out for distance, what would the decibel be? Just lab setting. What would the mathematical equation be?
Well, it would be a little bit different in a lab setting. This is not a lab setting. But if you did, you would go, I don't have that written out. You may have already done it, but if you take 3 feet.
Would you disagree? Let me ask you this, and it's not a trick question. Lab setting, we can put all the qualifications in, but would it be at 1,024 feet? Would you have any reason to doubt that it would be at 105 decibels?
That sounds about right. Okay. I think I did that at one point in time and got about the same number you did.
And if you wouldn't mind, what is your chart indicating is at 105 decibels?
Let's see.
Just what the chart says.
It says jet flight at 300 meters, which is basically 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Jet 1,000 feet over your phone, over your home. Would you hear that?
Would you
inside?
agree that a cat's meowing or a cat is fairly low on the decibel meter?
Yes.
Most of you
Certainly,
guys
if
can
a
probably
cat
agree.
was outside and you're inside, fairly low, hard to hear. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, unless the window's open.
All right. I'm going to reverse and now go to, if you wouldn't mind, starting at page or exhibit.
Ivan, is that a mule? Mule deer or whitetail?
57?
Looks like a mule deer to me.
Does it go backwards?
My untrained eyes.
Yeah, you have to keep going. Just the first part of this. There we go. Thank you.
As well.
All right, referring to your Exhibit 57 on your PowerPoint, I know you testified to, but are you familiar with what this image shows?
Yes.
Cat
All right, and
engineer.
this is the
It's a
feed
cat
room
engineer.
with the a view of the window. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is not a picture you took. Is that fair to say?
No, this is the night crime scene pictures from June 7th.
All right. Do you just visually looking at it? Do you see holes in the window?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see a whole lot of other stuff in that picture? On the shelves, in front of it, behind it, below it, above it?
Yes.
All right, if you wouldn't please continue on to the next slides. I'm going to go to your Exhibit 45. It's going the other way, towards the end of it.
Come on, Doug, get with the program.
Right there. Or 44 is fine. All right, so I think you testified that you kind of visually looked through the hole in the window and kind of aligned your eye with the tree outside. Is that kind of how it went?
No.
You said you, correct me if I'm wrong, you can tell me in a second, but didn't you say you lowered your head to where you perceived a chest wound would be and looked out the window and tried to align it with that defect?
Yes.
Okay. So the only thing I missed was lowering your head, right?
Right,
You lowered
and I
yourself
didn't
down.
do it at the window. I did it in the middle of the room.
Now, we've already established you have no training, experience, or expertise in shotguns. Is that correct?
Well, maybe you need to explain a little bit more.
Well, what do you have any formal training, formal expertise, formal education in how shotguns work, how shotgun projectiles work, and what they do after leaving the end of that barrel? Do you have any formal training, expertise, certifications, anything?
Well, not formal training, but I've done a lot of study, and I've also tested shotguns, and I've fired many shotguns before. I understand what happened to the pellets, and this particular pellet is one of the pellets that would have passed through Paul.
All right. What's the spread of a shotgun pellet exiting a shotgun barrel? What's the spread every 1 inch?
Well, it's going to vary based on the choke and the ammunition, but for this one, it's pretty clear that the spread is about the size of a window because the muzzle of the shotgun was maybe
equal to
let's
one
call
window.
it 3 feet inside the door. It's a 10-foot long room. So at 7 feet, the spread of these pellets after passing through a person, the spread of them is
Watch
probably that window maybe 26 inches wide. So that's going to be the spread. Obviously, there can be some deflection of the pellets as they pass through the body of the victim.
Would that be a variable?
Sure.
Did Alex just roll his eyes?
So do you know the spread of a shotgun every yard? How much it spreads, the cone? Do you know how much it spreads per yard?
What kind of choke?
Any choke, any gauge?
I don't
Do
know.
you
the number.
know?
I don't know the number off
Okay,
the top of my
you
head.
don't know. Do you even know it, not even off the top of your head, without looking it up?
I would have to look it up.
Okay. And do you know the range of fire for 10 feet, what that spread is? In centimeters, do you know? Or inches, well, either.
I don't have this committed to memory. I would look it up.
Is that even something you've ever known, or is that something you would have to look up?
Like I said before, I have tested such things before, and
Not
I've
asking
certainly
for what you
read
tested.
literature. But again, it's not something that I have committed to memory. Again, this, if you wanted to know something like that, if that was helpful in this particular case, then what you would do is then you would go to the literature and find those answers. But I don't have that memorized.
Well, aren't you rendering an opinion by drawing a line, by saying somehow that exited the shotgun? I mean, we saw the pictures with you standing there with your shotgun up, and we see this line. Are you not giving an opinion of its exit?
I'm giving an opinion that a pellet from that shotgun followed that line and struck the tree.
And yet you don't even know the cone and the rate of expansion of a shotgun. How can you give that opinion?
You don't need to know that.
Okay.
So because what you have here, you got a hole in the window, and we have a slide for it. There's a hole in the window. There's a impact mark on the tree. That pellet traveled a straight distance between those 2 points, and 2 points forms a line. You don't need to know the spread. I mean, that's actually what happened. Was a pellet came out of that gun, it passed through the victim, it went through a hole in the window, and it hit the tree.
How do you know then? How do you know it passed through the victim? How do you know that?
Well, it has 9 pellets in the shotgun. Paul had 1 pellet in his shoulder. Sled recovered 7. I recovered 9. So I recovered the last pellet.
All right, so how do you know that? How do you know that? What are you basing that on? What you just testified to, what are you basing that on?
Well, when I looked at the sled records, they found 7 pellets, or that went through his body. They didn't find all the pellets, but he had 8 entrance wounds. He had 7 exit wounds. They found 1 pellet in his body, so that's 8. But we know the manufacturer puts 9. When I went to the crime scene in October 19 of 2021, the 9th buckshot pellet was in the window frame.
How do you know that was the 9th buckshot pellet that went to it? Did you analyze it?
Well,
did you analyze it?
I didn't analyze it,
Okay.
but
Are you assuming?
Objection, Your Honor. Not allowing him to answer the question. He said, I didn't analyze it, but, and then he interrupted him.
I didn't hear the but. But go ahead.
Oh, so the window got shot, right? Most of the pellets went through the window. Some of the pellets went through the little white parts of the window. There was 1 pellet that Sled didn't recover, and the reason is it was under kind of the lip. You know how where you pick up on a window, there's a thing where you put your fingers. It was under that, but still there. So you have a pattern of buckshot pellets like this big, and so you got 9 holes basically, or 8, because there's 1 pellet left in the victim, right? So
how many?
9 minus the 1, so you have 8. There are 8 holes in that window. In my world, that's a very high probability that those are the pellets that came from the buckshot that injured Paul Murdaugh.
2 slides forward. 2 slides forward. What's this big thing here at the bottom? That big opening. Exhibit 47.
Are you talking about the missing glass?
Yeah, what is that?
It's missing glass.
All right. How many pellets went through there?
I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I counted for every pellet, except for the one that was missed by the crime scene investigators, which is under the...
Let's talk about that. How many grains was the pellet you located on the windowsill?
I never weighed it.
Okay. Again, how do you know it came from there? Do you really know it came from there, or are you assuming it came from there?
Well, the
What do you
window
know?
got shot with buckshot, and there's 1 missing pellet. Again, in my world, there's a very high confidence level that that missing pellet is there.
Is that the same confidence level that you're using for all these other opinions? That
Yeah.
you found a pellet?
All my opinions are at a very high confidence level. Yes.
Well, we're going to go through them.
We're
The
going
line
to get
here,
to them.
we got...
I object
Sorry.
to that question. We're going to get to them. That's what he said.
All right, well, of course, sustains objection to the comment.
The rope here, this orange rope, is that the one that continues back to the tree?
Yes.
All right, do you have any formal training
He said we're going to go
in
through them.
what a projectile does if it strikes anything, be it human flesh or glass, or any of the other items that would have been located? Do you have any training in that?
Again, not formal training, but it obeys the laws of physics, and I've tested it myself, and I've studied impacts. It's a big part of what I do.
Have you done a test where you shot shotguns through glass, through wood, and through human body, and then measured where they ended up? Have you done those tests?
No, you don't need to test it because you can just look and see what happened to it.
So is the answer no?
I didn't do any testing with the shotgun here, but why would you need to test? Because I think we got the same slide up there. Would you agree with me? Well, I can't ask you a question, but that pellet right there went through that window and it lodged in a tree or damaged the tree. I don't need to test that because that's just what happened.
All right, is it your opinion that it can only be that pellet? There's no other possibility? No other possibility? Is that your opinion?
Well, I'm not saying that there might be some highly lower probability, but if you stand in that room and we have holes, and just like you've shown, they're scattered all over that window, and you look in the direction of the damage to the tree where Paul was injured, that is the only one. And it's just I don't think it really matters one way or the other. All I can say is that I think the shot went through Paul in the manner that I presented it today. Okay. It really doesn't matter to me all that much which pellet went through which hole.
And I just want to be clear, you have no formal training in this, no pathological training, correct?
I am not a pathologist.
Okay. But you opine that you believe it went through Paul and then exited the window and struck that tree, but you have no formal training in any of that, correct? No pathology, no firearms, no shotgun-specific training other than anecdotal shooting a shotgun? None of that, no formal trainings. Is that correct?
I would disagree with all of that because, again, it doesn't take a pathologist. There's a small entry wound into Paul's chest. So all 9 pellets enter. 1 remains in his body. 8 leave his body. Right.
You are sitting here opining about pathology. Is that correct?
I don't see how that's pathology. Okay. That's simple math. Okay. It's 9 minus 1 is 8.
Math. Holes in the body are math. It's like the original abacus.
Exhibit, I don't know what page this is.
How many
Exhibit
spear
81
holes
or 80?
does this body have?
All right, reverse it. We'll start there. Go back if you wouldn't mind, a couple. Yeah, right here. Did you take this picture?
No.
How many inches does that look like he is tall?
Well, you can't tell how tall he is because of the way this picture's taken.
Well, what does it look like?
This shows his shoulder 64 inches.
What about his head?
You can't tell.
You can't see a number at the top of there?
No, because you'd have to be above the top of his head or right in line with the top of his head. The only thing you can glean from this picture is that his shoulder is 64 inches above the floor.
All right, I'm going to ask you about use of Faro. Are you the one who actually operates the Faro equipment?
I do, but in this particular time, somebody else did.
And did your equipment, has it been calibrated recently?
Yes, we calibrate every year.
Every what, sorry?
Every year.
Did you actually operate it this night?
No, I believe Michael Whitley,
this day, whatever it is,
who's a biomedical engineer in my office, I believe he was the one that day that was doing the scanning.
And you described Faro as the as a sort of a time of flight laser. Is that your testimony?
Yes, it uses a laser and it creates points. It creates a point cloud.
Is it fair to say, though, it's not actually a time of flight laser, it's a phase-based laser? Would that be more accurate?
I have no idea.
Okay, so you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, beginning at, just the very beginning of the slide works. No, the first slide, just the beginning of the the defense exhibit. Yeah, like slide 1.
I think he needs a Snickers or a Twix about right now. Thank you, MCAT, for that.
Did you do the addition? I know that we're going to get to it, but there's some individuals you put in the Faro report. Were you the one who actually added that 3D render, or was someone else do it?
No. I had several engineers help me on this project. So Aaron Kiefer is an engineer in my office. He did a lot of the work on the point cloud. And Matt Kiefer, actually his brother, did work with taking those scanned people and turning them into shooters. So I would say 5 or 6 engineers in my office have worked on this particular project.
All right. What we're seeing here is a quail, what's called the quail pen. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And again, this is not your picture. This was the one taken from the night of the incident.
This is a crime scene picture the night of the murders.
Okay. And next exhibit, please, Exhibit 63. Would this be a close-up of that?
Yes.
And the panel here, that's a paper product. I think you already testified to it, but that's a paper type product.
So it is corrugated.
Yes. Okay. You can actually see it's like bending, warped because it got wet.
Yes.
So it's pretty thin.
Yes.
All right, and the next slide, please. Now
like
this is what's purported to be a projectile hole. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, that is a projectile hole.
And you testified, I think you testified about the, what you tell me, what did you call this indentation on the right side of that hole?
I called it a white mark. The bullet's coming in at 41 degrees, kind of from the right, so that represents where the tip of the bullet first touched the cardboard or the fiberboard.
And I think you already testified this, but you have no formal training or experience or certifications in crime scene investigations. Is that correct?
I've answered that. It all comes from experience and my education.
Which none of
and
it
are
is in
you
this area.
aware that there's a margin of error for the angles that may be measured in a projectile, especially if it's a soft paper product?
Sure. There can be, and also depends on how you measure it. So I took what Special Agent Worley measured. Like I said before, it looked like our angle varied a little bit based on it didn't match up with the other physical evidence. That's why I picked a range. I picked a range of 1.5 to 3 degrees.
Okay. Keep going. Next one, please. And right here, we're seeing a metal dowel. Is that your understanding what that is?
I don't know if it's metal or fiberglass, but it's some type of material like that that's going to be straight.
And on top of it is an angle measurer. Is that
Yes.
fair to say? And they're sitting on top of that hole, which is essentially a paper product. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And no projectile was actually recovered from this.
I imagine this will be the last witness of the day.
From this direction of shot. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
All right. If you wouldn't mind skipping forward to Exhibit 35.
Hey, Tag, this new emoji is a protractor and a thermometer.
How tall is that doghouse at its highest point?
Probably going to be about 4 feet tall.
What are you relying on when you say that?
This is Special Agent Worley's notes.
Does your FAROScan make measurements of items? I think you testified to that.
It does. If you wanted me to give you my measurement of it, I would, have to
fire up the
open it
laptop.
It might take a while if you want to take a break.
So you don't know off the top of your head?
I do not have the doghouse height memorized.
All right, moving forward. And I think we saw here, this is the entry spot of the projectile into the doghouse. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Moving forward. Moving forward. And this again would be the same thing, a rod, but this time in a more firm. You would agree the wood in this case is much more firm than the quail pen paper product, right?
Yes, it's thicker.
And the bullet, which appeared to have gone through the doghouse and was recovered from inside, is that your understanding, having reviewed the crime scene?
Yes.
Crime scene reports?
Yes.
And do you have any formal study, experience, training, or otherwise on what a bullet might do when it strikes wood or whatever the interior of the dog pen held, including the earth?
Well, again, it's the same line of questioning. It would be based on my experience. I can't say that I've ever done any specific testing for wood. I've certainly reviewed papers and literature concerning such, but typically I don't go into that area of ballistics. I look more at impact marks and then just the flight path of the bullet, because that's just physics.
And then I'm going to fast forward to some of your Pharaoh images.
Don't believe any birds were harmed. I think it was empty. There were no birds in there at the time, I think.
Forward a little bit more.
There was also no dog in the doghouse, to my understanding.
All right, here in these the body that's laying there covered in a sheet, that was added after the fact. That's not part of the Pharaoh scan, is that right?
That is correct. That was added as well as the evidence markers.
All right, and I know the markers we see on this picture is just representative. There's the placards, and is this the one where you tried to merge kind of what the placards were with the Pharaoh scan?
Yes.
And the little circular X's, is that the computer-assisted drawing that you made based on the measurements performed by Special Agent Worley?
That's correct.
All right. Okay. All right, if you would mind scoot forward to where we start with these green lines. There you go. All right, and we're looking at exhibit, it doesn't even say, but exhibit with the two lines spread out. Is that the representative of the two different angles that were noted on the quail pen?
Yes.
So do you know which one's which one's the 1 degree and which one's the 3?
Well, the 3 degree is going to slope towards the ground quicker, so that would be the bottom line, and then the 1.5 slopes less, it's more gradual slope, so it would be the top line.
Okay. Going forward 1. And here's where you inserted a 3D person as a 5'2" person. Is that who you inserted there?
It's a naked robot.
Okay. And you chose to insert a 5'2" individual shooting from the hip in that manner that aligns with that green line. Is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay. And nowhere on here is any other individual on that green line. Is that correct? You didn't put any other images here. You only chose to put a 5'2" individual slinging a gun on his hip.
Well, that's what matches. If the person was any taller, then they would have to be towards the quail pen. If they were any shorter, then they would be behind the shooter. Or the shooter would be in a different posture.
And do you have any idea if a bullet can ricochet?
Of course.
They can, right?
Yes.
If they hit something.
Yes.
And you don't know, because we didn't recover that bullet, but you don't know if that was a ricochet, is it? Is it possible?
It could be possible, but I don't see any evidence from the crime scene investigation that it was a ricochet.
Okay, but it's possible, right?
I think it's very unlikely because of the hole in the side of the quail pen. Usually when a bullet ricochets, it'll get upset, so the hole in the quail pen should have been bigger.
So the shooter, according to your lines here, the shooter could have been anywhere on that line. Is that correct? Anywhere on that line?
Yes.
All right, if we keep going. This is just another one showing them same posture, just on different points of those lines. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So as long as that's gun, and we'll not worry about the 5'2", 11-year-old, but if anyone's on that line, it could have been accurate, right?
You say 11-year-old?
If that gun is anywhere on that line, according to you, it could have been accurate. Is that right? It could have been that shot.
Yes.
Anywhere.
That's what I explained is that the line, by definition, establishes where the weapon is. Then the next step would be to figure out where the person is, or where the shooter is.
I just want to be clear. anywhere from this point all the way, I guess, until it hits it would eventually hit the ground, right?
Correct.
Anywhere until it hits the ground, somewhere back behind where the bodies are located. It's your testimony that that is consistent with what you're seeing.
Yes.
As long as that gun is on that line.
Yes.
So we can just remove the 11-year-olds from the equation. As long as that gun's on that line, it fits with what you're saying your
Should be
mathematics
objection
is
here.
saying. It lines up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
They should object about the 11-year-olds because that's not facts and evidence.
And you didn't provide any renders of any other adult-sized human beings perhaps kneeling, did you?
Repeat that?
You didn't do any other renders along these lines of an adult-sized human being kneeling on the ground while shooting, did you?
No. What I did do is consider that because, I mean, obviously from your question, you kind of can see that in your mind. Okay.
I'm just asking for a yes or no.
Well, I did. Let me explain.
He's attempting to answer the question. Again.
Okay. So what I did for that question, because I figured that you would ask me it, but what I did was at 1 foot increments from the quail pen, all the way out to 60 feet. And at 60 feet, you're getting pretty close to where that line goes underground. It actually goes underground about 73 feet, okay? So what I did was I looked at the height of the shooter's hand, just like we did this morning in front of the jury. And the other thing I looked at was where the center of the shell casings, the empty casings were, okay? And I looked in a 12-foot circle around the shell casings, like the center of those shell casings, figuring that everything that I've seen, typically these rifles are going to be 8, 10, 12 feet, a big variable. It's just, just a rough number. This is what I did, though. First thing you look at is that Alex is 76 inches tall. I measured to his knee is 25 inches. So that means that if he went down on one knee, his shoulder is still 51 inches above the ground. And if he shouldered the rifle in a kneeling position, he still can't make the quail shot because the muzzle would be above where the hole is. So that's number one. So the more you back him up, then it just gets more and more improbable. So then what I said was this. So I looked at this, and the height of the shooter's hand, whoever the shooter was and whatever posture they were in, was between, assuming a 12-foot, big 12-foot radius circle, so however big that is, 24 feet circle around the shell casings. The shooter's hand is 16.2 to 27.6 inches above the ground. So that's basically 2 feet above the ground. So that's why it only fits. You said 11-year-old kid, but it only fits with a short person or with some bizarre shooting posture that doesn't match an aiming position or a normal shooting position or just an abnormal shooting position. That's where I'm coming from and I invite you, with the blackout here, if you want to, try to put this gun 27.6 to 16.2 inches and tell me that that's not somebody that's very low to the ground.
Answer me this. How far off the ground is that gun right there in the 12-year-old's hand?
Which one?
There's the objection.
12-year-old.
Objection is overruled.
Which shooter?
Doesn't matter.
There's no record, nothing in the record about a 12-year-old shooting this gun.
Objection's overruled.
Let's go with the back guy. I'll call him the far shooter.
How high is that gun?
So he is 33 feet from the quail pen, and if you look at that, which is the 1.5 at 33.
The dog house is 4 feet tall. Okay. These are very short.
The bottom of his hand is going to be like right there at that 28-inch mark.
Where's the line located? Right there. The line where the barrel, according to you, is.
At 33 feet, the muzzle.
I think the judge should have sustained that objection.
33
honestly.
feet for the rear shooter. 39.6.
39 inches?
39.6.
39 inches.
Oh man, Ivan, that is not
Do you have a tape
enviable
measure?
at all.
Oh, here we go. Inches right there.
Yeah.
If we back it up 10 feet, what's the distance? What's the green line at? 10 feet back, so 40 feet.
It would be 36.5.
36.5. That's 3 feet. 3 feet 5.5 inches. Is that right?
That is correct.
My finger, that look about right?
Yes.
Right there?
Yes.
Right there.
Yes.
But we got this. We got your renders that you went with are these two, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if you wouldn't fast forward a little bit. Right here, okay. So now we got, what's the angle of this doghouse that you calculated?
That's 14 degrees.
All right, and the shooter, the little youth there, the youth is how far away from that?
He keeps working that angle because the judge allowed it.
.4 feet.
And how high off the ground is that green line where he's standing? Little guy.
Cute little guy. Little boy. Little kid.
The muzzle is 29 inches above the ground.
29 inches.
Maybe 30.
30 inches. So right here? 30?
Yes.
So 30 inches when you're up close right next to that dog house. So what happens then when you back, I see the line, it's going upwards. So what happens when you back up? I mean, soon it's going to be over the little guy's head, right?
Yes.
Okay. But what happens if you're not such a little guy? If you back up, I don't know, let's back us up 5 feet, what happens?
Let's see, so that would be about 47.4.
47.4. Let's see. That about right?
Yes.
I can bring it closer.
Yes.
40, you see it?
Yes.
Okay. 47.4. It's right there.
Yes.
I'm glad we could demonstrate those heights to the jury. Thank you. If you wouldn't fast forward a little bit more about, it doesn't have an exhibit number, but like 5 slides. Right. Right. Yeah. Right here's fine. That's good. That's good. Now, and I just want to be clear. You talk about casings. It's cartridge casings, and you're aware that shotguns have shells and rifles have cartridges. Is that correct? Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
I call it a rifle cartridge, but a rifle cartridge would be the bullet and the casing and the gunpowder inside the casing. But I call them rifle casings.
Okay. Well, I mean, before you just called it shell casings, I just want to be clear. All right. So and you talked about, I know you spent some time talking about the ejection of cartridge casings from a rifle or an AR style rifle, but you have no training or experience in that, other than the studies you've personally conducted. Is that right?
That's correct. In literature, which again, for this rifle, it's supposed to be 3 o'clock to 4:30, which is 45 degrees behind, but it can be forward. It can be straight out to the side.
And I'm just tapping into common sense here, but you weren't at the scene the night of the murders. Is that right?
I was not there.
And so
Just
is it
checking,
possible
'cause you're 5'2".
that cartridge casings were moved?
Yes.
Is it possible that cartridge casings were ejected in an unorthodox manner?
Yes.
Is it possible that cartridge casings were ricocheted off of something, hit something and ricocheted?
Yes.
Okay. So where they laid, and this is just, again, tapping into common sense, not your engineering background, but where they laid may not necessarily be where they fell that night. Is that fair to say?
Yes. You're looking for just the area. For instance, if you're thinking about a shooting position 60 feet away, it makes no sense. But anywhere in that 24 feet that I'm talking about, yes, because there's casings there.
And here, what are we showing here? Remind me again what this, and I think there's one before it too, an exhibit before. What are we seeing here with the intersection of the three lines? What are you saying?
I'm saying that the two shots made in two different directions can be made from approximately the same spot.
Does that assume, though, that someone's shooting from approximately the same spot? Does that assume that right there? This is assuming someone's in the general same area when they shoot.
Well, I used a constant height shooter, put them on the trajectories, and they end up in the same spot.
Is it possible that someone shoots from one position and then moves to another position before they shoot again? Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay. And along your lines, it's still it's very possible that someone could have shot over here, and again, they were maybe a bigger person than the 12-year-old, and someone could have then moved before they shot again. Is that a possibility? Is that possible?
Of course. Well, I mean, that's what this slide depicts, is the shooter moving.
Right. Is it possible that they were back here and moved maybe just a little bit more than the 2 feet you put on your drawing?
No, they would have to change their shooting posture. That's kind of the whole point. It's like, for instance, you know, if you want to, like your line of questioning, let's say that the shooter is laying down or on one knee, then stands up and shoots from the hip. I don't know if that's really consistent with a moving shooter, but it's my understanding from what people have determined and what I've heard in expert reports from the state is that they think the shooter was moving. So I was thinking that it doesn't have to be, but what's most likely is somebody is walking around shooting a gun.
Okay. Again, you weren't there. You have no firearms training, is that right? Or certifications? Or crime scene training or certifications, is that right?
I was not there.
So this is your best guess. Is that what it is?
No, that is not a guess.
So it couldn't
that
be.
Is based, let me finish. That is based on all of the engineering principles, the physical evidence that was collected by both myself and Special Agent Worley. That is the physical evidence. Now, as you've done today, you can think about alternatives, and there very well can be alternatives. But you have to look at how likely the alternatives are. And that's what I'm doing here. There's always going to be variables. You can move things around, but I think, as I've tried to get across today, is that you draw a conclusion when you look at the evidence.
And you're here to testify to these jurors that your most likely answer is that it was a 12-year-old, two 12-year-olds at 5'2".
Your Honor, there's been no testimony that two 12-year-olds are involved in this anyway, misstating the facts.
Sustain the objection.
You're saying, though, that 5'2", which we can all guess approximates what size individual or age of individuals.
12-year-old.
That's your best guess of what went on that night?
It's not a guess. And again, it's not two individuals. It could be one person moving slightly there. Right. But that is not a guess. That is my opinion. And I've tried to explain it to the court as best as I possibly can.
He didn't object until he said there were two 12-year-olds. For being beat up, this witness is remaining quite composed. He's doing a good job. Tag, you missed this one. Basically, we use that emoji when the testimony is just crazy. When we're talking about the thermometer testimony, if you've heard that from the other day, armpit and everything else, and the protractor from Poot as well.
Move to Exhibit 50, I believe it's 53, right there. Did this line account for the trajectory of the bullet either going through glass, other objects, or a human being?
Well, as we've discussed before, I would not anticipate any deflection through the glass, but there could have been some deflection through the body. So what that would account for is that where I'm standing or where that string is could have moved a little bit going through the body, but I think everybody's agreed that the shotgun is inside the door, so that would limit how far you could move the shotgun side to side based on deflection due to contacting something solid inside the body.
All right, so I didn't hear a yes or no. Did it account for the projectile traveling through a human body, glass, or any other objects that were then located in that room that night? Does it account for that? Yes or no?
No, it doesn't account for it, but you could see, how that has to change or could change, because the amount that you can move the shotgun around from that position is limited by the opening in the doorway.
Okay. And same thing for the green laser lines we saw earlier. Does that account for the projectile passing through a human body, wood, any other object that it passed through? Did your calculations account for that trajectory?
Well, that path is a straight line path. It could have passed through a human body. It passed through the layers of the quail pen, but it's traveling straight at that point.
Did your calculations, I'm going to ask it again because I need a yes or no answer. Did your calculations account for the projectiles in the other examinations, the green line ones? Did it account for the projectiles passing through an item such as wood or a human body? Did it account for that?
No, I did not put there that the projectile somehow interacted with anything else and was deflected.
All right, I'm going to go over a few variables if you wouldn't mind. So variables in doing all these calculations are, would you agree, it's where the gun was held? That's a variable.
Not for the trajectories.
So you won't concede that where the gun was held is a variable in a calculation, such as yours?
Which calculation?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about either your shotgun calculation or your rifle one. Was where the gun held a variable that you have to account for in making this determination? Where the gun was held physically?
Not for the shot trajectories.
All right. Will you concede then that it was a variable in the AR-300 blackout scenario?
No, the shot trajectories, it doesn't matter where the gun is being held.
So where the gun's held in your mind makes no difference?
No, the gun is on the shot trajectory. I think I've explained that.
Is it a variable of how the gun was held?
No.
Not a variable. Is it a variable if the party shooting was moving?
Again, no. The barrel of the gun was on that shot line, in my opinion.
Is it a variable if the party that the bullet would have potentially passed through was moving? Is that a variable?
No.
Is it a variable to you if the party was jumping or ducking? Is that a variable to you?
No.
Is it a variable if the party was maybe turning side to side? Is that even a variable?
Not for what I've done.
Okay, so you're saying no to everything I just asked, and all of those, you would agree all of those variables that I listed include motion. Is that right?
Yes, those would all be if you were trying to figure out the orientation of the person that was shot, which is something that I did not do, and that's something I don't do. It's not my field of expertise.
But he spoke to it.
Anything further?
The judge does not like these pauses.
So let's stand while we're indulging.
Stand while we're indulging. Judge likes to keep the courtroom moving forward. Keep it progressing. take a look around. The witness stood up too.
Okay.
All right, and further to the variables, I think you just said is it not a variable to you? I'm trying to ask this as clearly as possible. Sorry, strike that. Is it a variable if the person that is being shot is moving? Is that a variable to you?
That is not a variable to me.
And is it a variable to you if the person who's doing the shooting is moving?
That is not a variable to me.
Would you agree, though, in general, people do move?
Yes, in my experience, people move.
Are you an expert?
No further questions.
All the notes are getting passed back. It's funny. Let's talk briefly about mass.
So much to straighten out. But let's deal with his last questions. About these variables. You're an expert. I'm going to give you a hypothetical real quick. Bullet hole 10 feet up, bullet hole 5 feet up. What does that tell you?
The bullet's descending.
Right. And if you put a dowel through that, would you see where it possibly came from and where it possibly went?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, it's a line, correct?
Yes.
So what does knowing where the gun was being held have to do with any of that?
It has no bearing on the physics of the flight of the bullet. It may have something to do with maybe where the shooter was positioned relative to the weapon, right? Or, if some other variable, but I'm not testifying about those subject matters.
Right. So well, let me ask you this. The data you relied on for this trajectory, the trajectories, was that generated by SLED?
Yes.
And so, did they indicate any evidence of ricochet?
No.
Did they indicate any evidence of bullet passing through a person?
No.
Didn't they test the one bullet they found in the dog shed for DNA and tissue or some sort of organic matter?
Yes.
Didn't find any?
No.
So you're basically just saying this is the line based on the SLED, Agent Worley putting a dowel through and then figuring out the angles, correct?
Yes.
The two people you put here are based on the angle from the quail pen going down. It was an upward shot, correct?
You cannot lead the witness, though I've heard no objections to it.
I haven't heard any objections either, Your Honor.
Well, the court is objecting. You cannot lead the witness.
Trying to cut to the chase, I apologize. You were asked a question about the number of pellets. Did you review Agent Worley's report of her notes based on her visit to the location on July 16, 2021?
Yes.
Let me hand you these to see if it refreshes your memory. You look through those for just a moment, please.
Okay.
Let me see it, please.
Ready.
Any objection to putting this into evidence?
think it's just hilarious that they used Jim's gun to test fire this. Like, oh, we just grabbed the lawyer's gun. The lawyer who also happens to be at the crime scene the night of.
Elmo. Offer this in evidence, Your Honor.
Submitted without objection.
Let's go page by page. And then we'll go.
Give it to Doug. Give it to Doug. Let him run the Elmo. Thank you, Doug. Gloria, they're trying to show that that Alex could not be the shooter because of the trajectory of the bullets.
That's fine. That's fine.
Specifically the two.
So, what is being recorded in this document and by who? It's a SLED report, right?
Yes, it's just a listing of the observations that Special Agent Worley was observing at the crime scene.
Okay, so let's go down to the bottom of this page, okay? There's that shadow. What's that about?
That's your head.
Okay. So tell me what that says. What does that mean?
Those are the following bullet defects in feed room, the doghouse, the small animal cage, and the workshop were scaled, labeled, and photographed.
Okay, so what is the defect A, B, C, D, and E?
Those are 5 projectiles from in the feed room window.
And I think we previously heard those are buckshot pellets.
Yes.
You can't lead the witness.
Finally.
Okay. Go to the next page, please. So how many is that?
5.
Okay, keep going. Top of the page, please. Okay, and so it can. What happens here? Defect F, G, and M.
F and G are projectile entered the interior side of the window. Defect K is a possible defect in the exterior side of the window screen.
And that accounts for how many pellets?
You got 7.
Okay, and how many pellets were there?
9.
Okay. Is this where you got your information that you were asked about by the state?
Yes, and I mean there was a report by Tom Bevel. He talked about the evidence. The evidence been listed, so there are several documents that you could go to find the stuff that was collected at the site.
Okay, and then going down doghouse, this would be what is that? What does that cover?
Maybe push it down.
Push it down just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, the doghouse was there was the entrance defect. Then there was a possible entrance defect. It was like a really small hole. No projectile recovered, and then there was a projectile entered the lower middle area, the southeast exterior side, exited the interior side, and entered the bedding. And the projectile was previously collected from the bedding.
Okay, so it says a flight path rod was placed through defects 1 and something.
I think that's I and I-1.
I and I-1.
Yes.
Okay, and was documented with photographs. You've seen those photographs?
I have.
An angle finder determined the vertical angle of the... You know, I'm just reading. I'm not leading him. I'm reading the document that's in evidence. I'm publishing it.
You can't be reading it.
All right.
Thank you. An angle finder determined the vertical angle of the flight path to be approximately 76 degrees, and a protractor.
He doesn't know how to say it. Protractor.
And a plumb bob determined the horizontal angle to be approximately 84 degrees.
Horizontal.
Is that right?
Yes.
Was that or was that inconsistent with the photographs you saw taken by Agent Worley of her performing those tests?
I think it's off the horizontal angle. I think was off a degree.
A degree.
I
based
think
on
we've
the
got
photograph.
probably half an hour or so max left.
No.
So you're looking at a photograph and saying it's off a degree, but maybe she had a better perspective. Could she had a better perspective than you did than what you saw in the photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Small animal cage. that says defect J, projectile entered the exterior side of the cardboard on the southwest end of the cage, exited the interior sides of the cardboard and the chicken wire. Defect J1 traveled through chicken wire on the back wall of the cage and entered the southeast wall of the workshop. Defect J2 exited the interior side of the workshop wall, defect J, and struck a vertical shelf beam that was perpendicular to the wall. A flight path rod was placed through defects J to J2 and was documented with photographs. An angle finder determined the vertical angle of the flight path to be approximately 87 degrees and the horizontal approximately 41 degrees. And is that consistent with the photographs you saw?
Yes, except for the one that's 3 degrees.
Right,
and
that's
then,
3 degrees.
And then there was one with 1.5, and again, for the reasons
I've stated. And that's why we see the two paths. You do one at 1.5, one at 3. Now, in any of this, did you read anything about I'm not quite done yet. No, I'm done with that one. But about ricochet or any biologic material on anything or anything that indicated pass through a person or a wall or anything. Was there anything recorded by their agent?
Here goes passion.
That would indicate any of that? That was collected by their agents that would indicate any of that?
No.
Okay. Now, what do you know what this is?
This is Agent Worley's drawing of the window.
Okay, and what does it indicate?
It indicates the 7 buckshot pellets that passed through the window.
Okay, how about let's see the other one. What is this?
It's another drawing showing where the 7 buckshot pellets went through the window.
Okay, one's from inside, one's from outside, or
yes?
What? Okay.
Yes.
So there are 7 buckshot, and which one of these is the one you measured through?
If that's the outside,
yeah, maybe it is.
I measured through a defect B1.
It's the orange one, top left.
Which would be the upper leftmost
exterior side. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I went through B1.
Okay. And is this consistent with what you saw?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't get to look at this until October, correct?
Of 2022. 22.
Right. Now, these drawings, their examination was done in June and July of 21, within a month of the murders, correct?
Yes.
And what you had to go on basically was photographs, right?
Objection to the leading, Your Honor.
What, if anything, did you have to rely on to do the analysis?
Well, the information and data that SLED collected. Because
I'm sorry, who collected it?
SLED.
Okay, and?
Right, because they were there very early on and I was not, and then also went and took a look at the physical evidence, and I found some stuff there that was helpful to my investigation itself. So it wasn't 100% based on SLED, but a lot of this information came directly from SLED.
Okay, do you know when Alec Murdaugh was charged with murder? Was it July of 22?
I don't remember.
But at some point over a year after the murders?
Yes.
Okay. And you were retained and got out there within 90 days of his arrest, correct?
Yes.
But they waited over a year to arrest him, correct?
Yes.
So my question is, I mean, these issues raised, would the ammo that you use for your sound testing, whether you were using the same brand or some different brand, did it make any difference?
No.
Objection, no basis in his expertise.
What, if any, difference would it have made in the acoustical issues you were testing? Different ammo?
Same objection.
None. I'm sorry.
He can't answer.
Sorry, Your Honor. Was he able to answer? I'm sorry. Was he able to answer that?
Objection was overruled. Your answer.
Thank you.
It makes no difference. All the shotguns are right in the same range. It doesn't matter. The rifles are in the same range. Weapons of this type are not loud enough to be heard inside the house from that distance with all the variables.
Okay, you were also asked a question about how loud the sound was if you went in a laboratory. The length of the distance you said was between the kennels and the house, outside the house, and I think you said, was it 100 decibels?
Yes, it's about like 103, 104.
Okay, and he went to a chart saying that would be like a airplane at 300 meters.
Yes.
Would you be able to hear that inside the house?
Depends on what's going on inside the house, but you know, at that level, you would just. I don't want to. It's been a long day, but it depends on where the energy of the sound is in what's called octave bands and 1/3 octave bands. So in other words, the sound of a gunshot is different than the sound of a jet airplane because it's not the same noise. So there's more to the question, but even if apples to apples, if you had that level of noise outside, which it wasn't because it wasn't a laboratory setting, it was actually only about 85 decibels outside the house, which would have been audible if you're outside. You could be a couple miles away and hear these gunshots if you were outside.
So if you were a couple miles away and you were outside, not inside a house, you could hear those shots.
You could, yes. As long as there's not a lot of traffic or you're not cutting the grass, if it was quiet and you're outside, you could hear those gunshots. You just can't hear them in the house.
Can't hear them in the house. Now, did you find any data, any reports, anything you looked at for SWAD, that they did any of the trajectory calculations that you did?
No.
They did a computer simulation, right?
Or a scan. They scanned the same way I did.
And then when you look at it, we saw it 4 weeks ago, there's a sort of a
Objection to the leading. Objection sustained.
Did they do, what if any Faro did they do? Faro computer generated. Did they do one?
All I know is that they did scan the scene in July, just like I did, but I have not yet seen anything from them using their scan.
And did they, again, not again, but I want to make sure I understand this. They got the information, strike that. What if any trajectory computations did they do, SWED, the state, any FBI, anybody hired by these guys over here, do on trajectory? Did you see anything?
No.
So the first time anybody's done any trajectory calculations is you, and as you indicated, we were going through that PowerPoint last night, trying to make sure it was understandable.
He can't stop talking. It's the politician in him. He's got to
sort
keep
of
going.
One last question. Was there anything to prevent SWAD, FBI, anybody from doing the same calculations you did? Well, just two last questions. That you did. Anything preventing them? Do they have any? What if any obstacles were there to SWAD or FBI or one of these private people they hired doing the same thing you did?
None.
And let me get this straight. He kept talking about children 5'2". Young lady, stand up. That's
Young
a clerk
lady.
in my office. She's 5'3". So,
Objection is sustained.
she's not a child. That's all I'm trying to point out. She's 22.
Objection to the commentary.
Objection sustained.
Apologize to the court, Your Honor.
He kept going.
Based on your calculations and based on the assumption that somebody would be holding a rifle either at their hip or at their shoulder in a way in which you could operate that weapon, what, if any, opinion do you have as to whether that person could be Alec Murdaugh shooting into that quail pen?
It can't be.
Thank you.
That was some strong testimony, pretty bold. Let's see the cross on this. See you, Lori.
I know you just answered that question, but it could be on anyone on those green lines. Is that right? Your green lines that you drew could be anyone along that green line.
That is correct.
Could be anyone who could fit along that green line. Is that true?
The weapon is on the green line. And then so, as I've tried to explain before, the next thought process is that, okay, for people of different sizes, what do they have to do to put their hands on the weapon to fire it?
Thank you.
While it's sitting on that green line.
So to be clear, is that a yes, anyone on that green line? As long as this gun travels on that green line, it would fit anyone on that green line.
That is correct.
Thank you. And if you were down at the kennels when a shotgun was shot and a 300 Blackout was shot, if you were down at the kennels, would you have heard it?
Yes.
No further questions.
Step down.
Okay, he's done. I thought it was going to go till the end of the day. We might actually end right here.
That be it for this day. We'll resume at 5:30, 9:30 tomorrow morning.
That's a early start or late start?
Looking at it's almost 5:30 now. We'll resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Please do not discuss the case. Have a good evening. You just hold still while the jurors leave, since it's taking you a while to get up.
Okay, the jurors are filing out here. It's 5:30. Abby, why are you still awake? So what happened that made any difference today? I'm a puzzlement. We started to have some expert testimony by a multifaceted expert in several different areas. He talked about the possibility of the phone being thrown. Possibility of how the phone could be thrown from the car or not, or not, but whether or not it was occurred. He talked about the vehicle speeds. He talked about a lot of trajectory analysis of bullets, specifically to a couple shots, one through the window and one through the window in the feed room, one through the bird pen, and one through the doghouse. And then his assumption, or his conclusion, I should say, not assumption, he would take exception to me saying that. His conclusion was that it was a 5'2" person standing about where Maggie's body was to fire both those shots. So that's what happened today. He did manage to hold his own opinion pretty well. I was a little surprised that he concluded, after saying that anyone could hold those guns along, anyone who was able to hold the gun along the line that they were. You can't take pens in there, Alex. He keeps trying to take pens in. That's not allowed. Anyone holding those guns would have been able to make that shot, and then he said he concluded that it could not have been Alec, which it clearly could have been. He keeps taking pens from him. He's got pockets full of pens. All right, we're gonna let Alec leave. We'll catch up with him outside here in just a little bit. Meanwhile, here in the court, everyone else is going to file out. Looks like they're about to be released because the jurors are gone. There we go. Okay. Just saw one of the defense lawyers yawning. I was yawning.
Alex stole it.
Alex stole it. Let's see. The expert must be exhausted. Yes, but he's got a big fat paycheck waiting for him. I mean, it was $17,000 for his company, $17,500 before he testified today, and now he's got a day of testimony as well. When did the prosecution officially say they rest their case? Teresa, they did. You have to go back and watch because they sort of moved on, and then as Dick was about to start questioning his first witness, they sort of interrupted and said, "We'd like to officially." I just got the bars and tone. I just fixed it, so nobody heard that. We'd like to officially rest, and they rested in front of the jury. So, yes, they did say that they rested their case, Teresa, and that was on Friday afternoon. Let's see. The Dutch girl says, thanks again, of course, the mods and everyone for the super calm. And have a nice evening. It's bedtime over here. Dutch girl, we'll see you in the morning. Thank you very much. Let's see. You pay thousands of dollars, testifies in your favor. You don't say. Right. The expert, they hire experts who will reach conclusions that are favorable for them. Now, I'm not saying that this guy will always reach the same conclusion, but they probably talk to people and feel them out. And the guy says, you know, they might say, this is what we think happened. Is that reasonably, you know, with your expert opinion, does that work that way? And they would say, yeah, and I can prove it. I'll go, great, you're hired. I doubt that any of these lawyers just go out and just hire an expert and say, whatever results you come up with, I would like you to testify to them. That's rarely done. We got the bars and tones taken care of. There's going to be no noise. Today, no, they rested on Friday, Teresa. They rested on Friday. What was the falling out? I feel bad. Why? Who fell out? Well, Jay Hughes had a falling out. What happened? Oh, okay, something else. We're all friends here. All experts are paid. That's normal. It is. And every single time the opposing side wants to bring up how much they're paid, but they pay their own experts. You know, it's just what they do. So it just, we come to expect it every time. And sometimes it might have an impact on the jury, especially if they're paid a lot of money. But you know, they're still an expert witness. I was surprised that the prosecution did not object to this witness's credentials. If they have issue with the fact that he's not an expert in all these different areas, why wouldn't they object at the beginning? Why would they let him go ahead and testify and then go back and say, let's talk about your credentials? There was a time to do that at the beginning, and I'm surprised they didn't. Hip Hop Flip Flop says, stuck at work without spicy maple bourbon pickles. That sounds awful. Let's see. Kim Saunders says, can you tell me how to receive or gift and receive membership? Can't figure it out. Kim, if you're on a computer, it's the easiest to do on a computer. You can go on the bottom of the screen if you have the small window, not full screen, but if you just pull up my YouTube video, underneath where you see the like button, after you click the like button, that's key, you're going to see a button that says join. Click the join button and it will open up another page. The top right-hand window, it has 3 little dots. Click on those dots. The bottom option says gift settings. And you can change the gift settings for this page to eligible to receive. That means you slide the slider to the right and then it's done. And then you're eligible to receive a gift membership if one is given. As I think you have to be here for that to happen, though. You can't get one when you're not here. You can also, right here, you can click on the link and you can type !gifts in chat. You will get this link and then be able to click on it. That will take you right to that page where you can change that setting. But it has to be done, I believe, on a computer. Somebody can check and see if you can do it on a phone. It may not work there. Let's see. Matthew Harris says that there are times that we use expert witnesses, but they're not retained experts subject to being paid. Think doctor in the emergency room who has expert knowledge but isn't retained. Right. I'm thinking the analysts after the fact that testify. A lot of times you'll see them in rebuttal witnesses as well as in defense. But I hear you. We have like the coroner, you know. He just testifies about his job he's an expert in. He says, yes, I stick my hands in people's armpits. That's how I tell how dead they are, or when they died in this case. Hugh said earlier, it's better not to object. It's better to not object than have a strong cross than force them into a highly credited expert. Yeah, if you can get him speaking and make him think he's got free reign, he's accepted as an expert, and you know everyone's going to bow down to whatever he says, and then talk him into a corner and get him to completely contradict himself and things like that. That would probably be better than not getting him retained or not getting him allowed at all. Let's see. DMB says you receive a gift even if you're not here at the time. Happened to me once on another channel. That's awesome, DMB. Kimdra Saunders says, I'm always here. I'm a lurker. Been here since DB. Kimdra, thank you so much. Make sure you change that setting so we can get you properly recognized and get you on the front row. You can lurk on the front row then. You can do the gift link on a phone. Thank you, Katrina. That's worth a try. Can't do it on the phone. I tried on Android. So maybe in a different browser. So if you open up Safari or I guess Android, you have to use like Chrome or Google or something like that. Let's see. No, you're all good. I don't think there was actually a fight. Yeah, isn't that a thing? How dead they are? It's one of those "I'm not dead yet," or what was the line from? I guess it's The Princess Bride, right? Has got people that are only like 99% dead or something. Let's see. Roxy says, Kusky, you can. I have Android. I give a super chat, then all the options open for me. I guess that opened the world for you, Roxy. And thank you, by the way, for the super chat. That casual kneel next to the measure was a boss move. Yes, and the attorney, without saying it, he's roughly the same height as Alex. And so him holding up that measuring tape and just showing how easily it can be done was effective. Girl next door, welcome to the jury. Thank you so much for being a member and being on the jury. You get a special padded chair on the front row. Appreciate very much your support of the channel. Let's see. Janet Kaufman, what do you think about the last witness being part of the boat case? Yeah, that was interesting. Apparently, Jim didn't go too far when he was looking for people to help him out with this case. He's like, hey, I've used this guy before. He probably said, I've got, I know his work. I like how he works. And I think he's somebody we can count on. His pricing's right. He's a triple threat as far as what he's an expert in, and brought him in. And then Jim went to the added, measure of saying, hey, you can borrow my 300 blackout for all your testing. So that was a interesting move. Did you send Gray the stuff he wanted? Oh, that was somebody else. Never mind. Sorry, I'll stay out of your conversation. I realize. Never forget, Andre the Giant was in Princess Bride. He was. My favorite line is, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. These guys are not Johnny Cochran. Congratulations. Welcome to your new addiction. She knew she was an addict before she joined. She's known for a while. I'm a puzzle man. What's the rationale for using 2 hunting-style long guns? I don't know, and I don't know if we ever will. All we know is that 2 guns were used and that Paul frequently had both those guns with him in his truck. It might have been opportunity. It might have been planned. It might have been one gun malfunctioned. And
Alex stole it.
And Alex stole that one. It might have been a lot of things. It might have been, very methodically thought out and saying there's, nobody commits 2 murders in the same scene with 2 different weapons. But it's very possible. I mean, we look at BK. You look at him, and he kills 4 people with a knife in 15 minutes. Okay. And here we've got Alex saying he killed 2 people with 2 different weapons in roughly about a minute or less. I think it's possible. Let's see. Join us every day for trials with your own recovery addict mug. Thank you very much. The mugs have been flying off the shelves. I need to do a report and see which color is the most popular. I got some Cat 8 cable, master of the land. Well, Richard, you're ready to own the internet then. All you have to do is beat Myra here in the morning, and you should have a shot at it. 2 shooters is the reason for 2 guns. It would make sense there. What's up with buckshot? Debbie, there's the shotgun blast that, one of the shotgun blasts that went through Paul the first shot, I believe, was buckshot, and it went through across his chest and sort of through his arm. The wad sort of stuck in the armpit area, and hopefully that wasn't the armpit that they, checked to see how dead he was. But it was, I think, number 4 buckshot, not double-aught. It was number 4, which is a little bit smaller than double-aught. I think it's .24 or something inches. It's got 8 or 9 rounds in it. It was magic bullets. He lied under oath. Who lied? Are you talking about the witness we just saw? It could happen in 2 minutes, but really, the timeline gets really funky. For me, it's not as hard to imagine that Alex could kill 2 people in 1 minute or 37 seconds as one of the YouTube videos showed just the other day. But that's not as surprising as all the things he did afterwards to clean up happening in a very narrow window of time. That's where time was critical. That's where everything had to happen quickly and in order, and there was no time for mistakes, because he had to get off that property and over to Alameda as fast as he could, possibly why he drove quickly. Let's see. He did the Dave Chappelle load, birdshot, buckshot, birdshot, birdshot. Good night, Mary. Good to have you here. Thank you. We'll see you in the morning. We have all lied. Yes. I think Abe Lincoln told the truth about the cherry tree, right? There's a little poem that's told in a weird little accent thing, but I won't go there because I'll get in trouble for trying to replicate the accent, and it won't work very well. Well, if he's not found guilty, he committed the perfect murder. Such a shame. Marcy's convinced that he's guilty. Let's see, Debbie, got you there. The time frame and trajectory does not fit. I've felt this since the state presented evidence. 2 people. I think Alex witnessed it, which explains behavior and mob, people he screwed in business. Coroner waits to hear, I'm not a corpse. He just keeps his hand there in the armpit. George Washington, cherry trees. Did Buster help anything? Do you think? I liked him testifying as even home side. He didn't seem to try to make people think he knew the full story, but not sure he helped. I think he did help. Specifically, Verity, I think when he testified about parking in the back of his grandma's house, and that they'd often park on the lawn by that back door, that looked suspicious when we heard about that. I mean, I know in the South, people, especially if there are lots of people coming over to a house, the lawn is like fair game for driving on. People drive on the lawns all over here. And so I was okay with that, but it was good to see him say, yeah, we always park over there in the corner. That would be normal. That sort of gets rid of he was trying to stash something over there in the skin house or something. I forget what it was. The smokehouse? Is that what it was? Okay. This guy was already a retainer for the boat case. Yeah, we knew he had him on the schedule, so he was available. Did you see the interview of Paul's girlfriend, Morgan Dowdy? I did not, Izzy. I'll have to watch for that. And was it just recently done, and where? Is it on YouTube? Okay. If Alex Murdaugh didn't kill them, then who did? Even the defense hasn't given an alternative persons. Sharon, they don't have to give, they don't have to prove who did it. That's the beauty of our system. The burden of proof is on the state. If the state cannot prove that Alec Murdaugh did commit these crimes, then he should not be convicted of it. And they're having a hard time proving that he did. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's a lot of things that Alec did that sure look suspicious and make us scratch our head and say, why would you do that if you weren't guilty? Why would you lie about that? Why would you say you weren't there when you were? Things like that. Why would you tell someone I was here for longer than I was? Why would you, make a big deal about the shirt and say this was a different brand of shirt? Remember, I was wearing this other one. Why would all these things happen if there wasn't something you're trying to cover up? And so it's possible that the jury could make reasonable inferences about these items and come to a conclusion that he is guilty, and they could convict. That would not be wrong if the jury used that thought process and did it. That would not be an improper conviction, because they are allowed to convict with circumstantial evidence, solely circumstantial evidence. But basically, in their minds, the state would have had to prove that using circumstantial evidence. The defense does not have to prove that someone else did it. Now, they have said, Alex Murdaugh has said, I have an alibi. It couldn't have been me. That is something that they have to prove. You have to come up with an alibi and say, this is my alibi, and this is why it couldn't have been me. I was out of the country, and here's my visa stamp, here's the video of me, in Cannes at the film festival, during the time of the murders. It couldn't have been me. That's an active defense, and it has to be proved. If I rewatch what was the most compelling testimony, I would say Buster was interesting. I really found him believable. The last witness was not really exciting for me. I found more flaws with how he was testifying. Kelly Hansen's admitted to being an addict. Kelly, thank you for subscribing to the channel. You didn't know you were coming out as an addict here, but welcome. You're one of us now. Appreciate you joining us. Buster was very courteous and well-mannered. The only time he looked uncomfortable was when he was asked if there was any violence in the home. Interesting. I didn't see that. I didn't see that he was uncomfortable. He was leaning forward the whole time, but he's been sitting in court. He realizes that he can't hear if people don't talk into the microphone. So he knows exactly what you have to do to be heard in court. And so he's a big guy. Okay, he's like his dad. He's tall. He's not a small guy. That witness stand is built, for people with no legs, honestly. If you sit in the chair, your knees hit the wall. It's not a desk that you slide your legs under. It's just like a straight wall. And so their knees are up against it, and then the microphone's over there, and they can't get close enough to it. They can't move the chair close enough because their knees are into the bench. Because of that, he has to sort of lean forward into the microphone and talk like that. I didn't read anything into his body language because of that. I think he was just being considerate to make sure everyone could hear and following the instructions. We do have a Friday podcast. Thomas and I are going to have round 2 of our podcast. Thomas and Scott Talks. It'll be awesome. It'll be wonderful. Please mark your calendar and try to be there. It's 9 p.m. on Friday on this same channel, same bat channel, same bat station. Verity says, "Oh, okay. I was a little confused about the part of the defense. Thank you. You're welcome, Verity. Anytime you have a question, let me know." Yes, the burner phone is. I was actually checking the burner phone. It's going nuts here. I've got a picture of a pet deer from Ivan, a pretty good sized deer. I think it's a mule deer. I just can't understand why the deer has stuck its head through the wall of your living room and is posing there, Ivan. It is not a pet deer. It's a mounted deer, a very nice looking buck. Stating you have an alibi put some responsibility on you. Yes, it does. Y'all, did the defense do anything big today to help clear Alec? I really missed most of today. There was some good. They had a witness that basically testified, an expert witness that said, and here's the thing. The expert witness found one of the missing bullets. We heard Sled say, we found most of them, but we couldn't find this one. He found it. It was there in the shed, in the windowsill. There's a question. Could it be something else? Did he measure it? How many grains was it? Everything? No. He pretty much found the missing bullet. And I say bullet. It was actually a pellet, a buckshot out of the shotgun shell. So he found that. That's awesome. That's like rub it in their face. It was like right in front of their face, and you didn't find it, but I did. That makes it look like I've done more work. I've looked at this more closely. I've really been meticulous in my study and my analysis of this, and I found things you missed. And then he also comes and using that same credibility, he comes and he says, and this is what I additionally did that you didn't do. I did this extra work. I went to all this to say, hey, it could not have been Alex because the trajectory doesn't work. He would have to be hunched over, holding the gun down by his knees to make this work. So he got some good testimony in that way. I don't know if the jury completely, changed their opinion because of it. But all he needs is one juror to believe there could have been somebody else, a reasonable suspicion that it could have been somebody else. How about a poll? Was this expert testimony effective for defense or discredited by the prosecution? We could do that. We're losing people fast here because it's late in the day. Let's do it first thing in the morning because I forget to close out polls and it would be awful. Brett says your stream is educational. Thank you, and I'll be back tomorrow. Brett, thank you for being here. Feel free to click the subscribe button and ring the bell if you want. The first person in chat does win the internet for the day, so if that's something you've always wanted, hopefully we can give that to you. Let's see, is Sarah Boone's trial or the Visine trial next? Visine is next. The eyedropper trial in Judge Doro's courtroom starts the 27th, so we might have to do a little bit of catch-up depending on how late this trial goes. I'm hoping it actually ends before... Poot thinks it will. He thinks he'll go pretty much all week and get it to the jury at the end of the week. Then we're on verdict watch. We might be watching the Visine trial and then immediately jump over to verdict next week. So that would be fun. Buster confused spanking with violence. I think it was his hesitation. Okay, I remember that. He did say he got spanked when he was bad type thing. which probably happened more than once, I'm guessing. Sunshine, where have you been all day? Lurking somewhere, right? Lurking somewhere. Let's see. Actually making a home for 6 coolie loaches. They're nocturnal and wants a dark place to hide in. I can't wait, KQD. I want to see pictures of this, the aquarium you're building. Abe walked miles to return 2 cents to a customer that overpaid, hence the name Honest Abe. I thought it was because he told his dad he chopped down the cherry tree. Why do you think Alex returned to the crime scene so quickly? He should have waited several hours. Well, I don't think the alibi of him going and sitting at his mom's house for several hours while she was sleeping would seem reasonable. Let's see, anybody else? It's embarrassing for the witness to stand in general. It's so embarrassing, the witness stand and general layout of the court. It's not conducive to a big trial like this, especially with all the equipment and wires and cables and everything. They need a new building, really. Let's start a GoFundMe for Carleton County. They need a new building. I think they have a big enough lot if they'd be willing to part with this old building, which is historic, and nobody wants to tear down something historic. But they definitely have a big enough lot to rebuild if they found structural defects in the current building that needed to be remediated. Yesterday I went to Walmart to pay for a $6 candle. I didn't scan in self-checkout. Who says criminals can't be reformed? Ivan, that's awesome. Yeah, I've done the same thing. I went through Walmart and had a case of water underneath the cart that I forgot to scan. I had to go back in and pay for it separately. No dead deer, please. I think the chat would not appreciate showing Ivan's deer, but maybe we could post it over, somewhere in the chat on Discord or something for those that want to see it. It's a pretty impressive buck. Let's see. I just think it was horrific for Alec, but felt he had to do it. So Alex Murdaugh was known to own both calibers of gun and carry them in a vehicle. Where are the guns now? We don't know. They might be the guns we have, the ones that are in the courtroom. They have not been excluded as a possibility, but it's more likely that the replacement gun was the one that was used, and possibly a shotgun, either the same or a different one. It's really hard to track the shotguns. So you're going to listen to Motorhead the rest of the evening. I Cannot Tell a Lie is George Washington for sure. Buster going to get any money from Netflix for the new documentary? I don't know. Let's see. I got your message, Wallflower. I'll see if I can send you something. I have an iPad, so I might be able to do some tests and see if I can figure that out. But I'll let you know. He kept mentioning the lawsuit. He did. He settled that boat case. I don't know if the money, who paid out what, but that's settled. That's a done deal. He sure did not want to talk about it. As he was being asked questions about the boat case, he was like, I don't talk about that. Where's my lawyer type thing. Used to have an Eddie Van Halen poster next to my Heather Locklear poster, says Rich Buddy. A little bit of Eddie V. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're all caught up. I think we've got your questions taken care of. Thank you all for being here today. Catching a couple more. Dirty tactic to add in, they believed the driver of the boat not being Paul. Before I forget, thank you, Matthew Harris, for reminding me. Matthew Harris, our resident legal expert. We have many here now, but Matthew was the first, and so he holds a special place in our heart. But Matthew Harris has his own YouTube channel where he produces some great stuff. I went back and watched the video, Matthew, of the legality of transporting a dead body in your car, which most of us probably will not have to brush with or have an encounter in our life. But the information is out there. And so if you have to pull a, Weekend at Bernie's, or what was the other one? I forget the other movie that features, dead people in the car. There are rules. play, and he does a great job presenting it. It's a lighthearted approach to death, which sometimes we have to take, and in this case, it's the way the law addresses it. So I will recommend that video for sure. You never know when you've got to take somebody for their last ride, and you'll want to make sure you're following the law when you do it. So thank you very much. Do check out his channel. I would recommend you also subscribe to him. Give it a like, maybe a comment on a video or two. He's got some great ones out there, and he releases them on a regular basis. So thank you, Matthew, for being here. Appreciate your time. I do want to have one of your live streamed cases featured on the channel at some point. So we've got to work that out somehow. I need to download photos from my iPhone to edit them. Then I will send the aquarium photos. I can't wait. I'll watch the burner phone, or you have other ways to reach me as well sometimes. Thank you, Koski, for being here. Koski06, appreciate it. This is now music chat. We're talking about lots of music. National Lampoon's Vacation. There it is. That's the other movie. Thank you very much. I remember there was another one. I couldn't remember the title for the life of me. Just watched one last night. The movie was called Reasonable Doubt. Either Washington or Lincoln said anything about lies and cherry trees, says Roxy. It's one of those, is it one of those, it's like what's the name of it? When we create a story in history that probably isn't true, but could be, sounds like it is. Is that what you're saying it is? There was no cherry tree. I'm 15 minutes behind, at least. It's the chat. I'm so far behind. I'm super far behind. Might not have power here in Michigan. Ice storm coming. That's no good, Angelina. Please stay safe. Hopefully you've got everything you need to hunker down, and we'll make sure Myra keeps the internet going for you. Michelle, thank you very much. Ivan posted a mounted whitetail in Discord. That's where you can see it if you want to see the deer picture. Thank you, Ivan. That was pretty impressive. I've never been successful in a deer hunt, and I haven't been in many, many years. Will you please show the picture of Matthew Harrison Weather Watch again? Can I do it tomorrow, Debbie? We can try it tomorrow. Enjoy your afternoon. Yes, that's what I need to say, right? That's the important part. Thank you all for being here. We are going to wrap up for tonight. We do this every day. 9 a.m. we're going to start, which is half an hour before the court begins in session. There is roll call in the morning. You'll want to be here for it, so you're not marked absent. We're yet late. But please be here tomorrow. Please join us. Bring a friend if you'd like. This is a fun place to watch the trial. It's a community that's quite civil with each other. Occasionally we get some interesting discussions going, but we keep it on the level. Nobody gets their feelings hurt. We are all friends. We get to know each other, even though we have very different opinions in some cases. So if you fit in that scenario, or you'd like to be in that scenario as you watch court, this is the place you want to be. So please bring some friends, drag them over from another place where they really don't want to be anyway. So that would be great. I appreciate all you guys who joined today. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you all, everybody. It's been fun. Cherry tree is a myth, says Carol. Final words. Thank you, Teresa. Have a good night. Tonette Lewis, right at the end, admitted to becoming an addict. Tonette, thank you. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.